Hello. It's February 26th of the year 2024. Welcome to Scouching Live. I am joined once again by my co-host, Sam McGilligan. Sam, how are you doing? How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, hanging in there. I spent all day staring at a screen, and now my eyeballs hurt, so I'm going to spend the next 2 hours staring at a screen and
various screens.
So my eyeballs will continue to hurt. But in any case, welcome to Scouching Live. I am Will Scouch, of course. We're brought to you by Fanatics. You can use our affiliate link below, or you can scan the QR code in the stream window to provide a kickback to the show on anything you buy. We're also brought to you by Puck Preps Hockey for all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs. Sam and I both cover the 2006 age group over there. We just submitted some updates for this month, I believe, or we talked about it, or did we not do anything, or...
No, we've pretty much, we're moving in the right way. It'll be uploaded on the site in a couple of days.
There you go.
Or two.
So if you're a subscriber at Puck Preps, you'll see some of the changes we've made. It was a good time. We're also brought to you by Fractal Hockey Consulting, which is my business for hand-tracked targeted player analysis and recruitment packages for the NCAA, Europe, and beyond, with solutions for any organization's needs. And of course, Scouching.ca, where you can get exclusive access to innovative data tools, providing unparalleled insights into draft prospects and players making their way into the NHL. I should also mention we're also here with Mr. Producer AJ. So producer man, he's a little under the weather, but he's here because he's a trooper. How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, he's extra sultry this week with the deeper voice and the radio boominess to him.
It adds character.
Effect.
Yeah, it makes you sound much older and more refined, I think. So
poetic.
Yeah, so you're in good company now because we're classy here. We like to have class.
Yes.
Well, we try to have class. I mean, look at me. I'm in a Vancouver Canucks jersey, and you're classy. You're wearing a half button up linen shirt. Is that linen?
I don't know, man.
You don't know?
Honestly, I need to do laundry. I had a few shirts left, and I was like,
so
not appropriate. Yeah, that'll do.
So this is your default for today, just like.
Kinda.
Yeah, so like your character creator for the day, just default mode. Nice. Fair
Something
enough.
Like that.
We got a lot of stuff to go over this week. We're going to chat about some of the players that have been tracked in the last couple of weeks, where Sam gets to interrupt me as much as he wants. We're going to chat about the man on this jersey, Mr. Elias Pettersson, who is supposedly in the news, and we'll talk a little bit about that over the course of the next hour. We're going to talk a little bit more about the playoff picture, because after this weekend, it seems like things have really changed a lot, and some of the things we've said on the show might turn out to be a little bit hasty, but that's normal. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some work that I put out today, diving into some prospect pipeline rankings around the NHL that most people seemed to enjoy. If your team showed well, you enjoyed it. If it did not, you did not enjoy it. But we'll go over that a little bit.
Detroit.
Yeah, I got some questions about explaining the methodology and how all of it works and all of that stuff. So we'll go into that a little bit. But of course, as usual, you can fire any chat questions you may have in the chat. So before we get to this, let me just pull up the list of names that we've looked over. So I'm going to skip over all the ones that probably nobody cares about. People care about Topias Heinonen, at least the two people sitting at this table.
Yep.
Kieran Walton was another one I took a look at over the last couple of weeks. Linus Eriksson is another one that I looked at. Our boy Zane Parekh was another one. That was a fun time. Emil Hemming, a guy that you think stinks.
I didn't think he stinks. I just don't see the top 20 guy that people will rate, and I went back not too long ago and went, I feel like that's
right,
wild, but do you think people who want to take it with a top 20 pick?
Right. It took me 5 months, but I finally took a look at Gavin Hodnett. Did a game of a Russian guy I like. I don't know if you've seen much of Fyodor Avramov.
You sent me a couple of things, but I've seen GIFs.
He's a good one. You've seen GIFs. He's in GIF
mode. They don't
mode.
count.
Yeah,
they
that's
don't really
fair.
count.
Yeah, that doesn't count. It does, but it doesn't.
It does.
Brody Zemer, one of your boys. Brody Zemer was on the list. I took a look at Sebastian Soini, who I've been asked about a couple of times and have fumbled my way through explaining him. Finally took a detailed look at him, and he was pretty solid. Beckett Seneke, Michael Brandsegg Nygård was another one. Ole Josephson, Dominic Badinka again, Matvey Gridden, Jack Berglund. I don't know if you've seen much of Jack Berglund.
Earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'll revisit when I'm motivated. And
Yeah. Yeah. Danilo Stinkov. Thomas Galvis was on the list. I did another game of Jesse Pulkkinen. You and I watched a game of Jesse Pulkkinen on Friday night. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Holy.
Yeah. Did another game of Alphonse Frey after that game of Pulkkinen because I needed to check myself before I wrecked myself. Who else is on here that's worth mentioning? VT Weissenen I did another game of, bumped him further down. Merrick Vanacker had a really good game that I saw today. Nathan Villeneuve, I think, has also gotten a lot better over the course of the year. And then I did another game of Justin Poirier today because I needed it. Last time I saw him was September. And TJ Ginla was the last one I did. And the rest are whatever. They're just guys. But anyway, so thank you for joining us. This is a dandy time. Sam, any specifics from that list that you would like to zero in on while I readjust my microphone because it seems to be falling?
Sure. Let's start with Pulkkinen.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, that was a game. For context, about a month and a half ago, I'd say roughly, maybe let's say 4 weeks ago, I told Will and I told a couple other people who I just kind of talked about them on messaging that I was borderline like done watching Jesse Pulkkinen for the year because like I was just so over the concept of a overager who it moves kind of well, but does kind of have some wonky skating as well that doesn't really create a lot of separation. YOLO's every other defensive play. YOLO's every touch with the puck. Kind of was, and it was, there's no structure. I looked at it and I was like, man, if this works, it's a long shot dart throw that I have no interest in taking. But then Friday came and we watched Jesse Pulkkinen actually string together a full game of, honestly, I would say pretty competent.
He was pretty good.
Pretty good hockey.
Yeah, I would say like
with some crazy YOLO moments and some moments of terrifying fear and lots of other things of that nature. But the highs and the lows are both on full display. And now I can finally say people who like Jesse Pulkkinen, yeah, those are some pretty fun highs. I finally got to see them. That's one of those like you were getting sample sized up until like it's crazy, but like I never saw that type of stuff over the span of multiple times a game. You see a GIF and you're like, that's cool. You watch the game, none of it happens.
He is terrifying.
He's terrifying still.
Because I remember
now he's the type of terrifying I want. I'm like, yeah, but I like that. I don't know.
We were sitting around in the first period, and I think there were moments where you sat there and kind of went, "Oh God, oh God, oh wow." It's like, oh God, oh no, that was cool.
That was pretty much the whole game. It was just two different tones of oh God and oh God. Yeah, like just amazing stuff, and then some of the most terrifying stuff. And what's crazy is that they were happening in like the most entertaining shifts. One of them was a shift where he did something awful, then he did what probably his coolest move of the game, then he did something awful, and then he did something cool, and then he got on the ice, and like 6 seconds into the next shift, he did something awful.
Yeah,
and I was like, what?
There isn't any in between with him. There's none. And that's the crazy thing about him is like sometimes you see like when things work,
you're like, wow.
And you go, okay, like for a guy 6'6" to be doing stuff like this,
it's intriguing.
Yeah. But yeah,
I get it. I do understand why people have the appeal with Pulkkinen. It makes a lot more sense to me now that I finally get to see it over the sample of like an entire game.
Right.
Instead of like one or two shifts followed by a bunch over and over again.
I still believe that if you're drafting him in the first 2 rounds, you're a little bit nutty. Like even if he were a 2006 born kid, like where would he probably end up in your mind, right? Like
I definitely could see him in the second if he was if he was 06.
If he was 2 years younger. Like yeah.
But he's old.
I mean, you got to respect the confidence. I wonder how he is as a person. I'd be fascinated, but yeah, that was a fun experience, especially listening to you have your brain kind of rewired in real time. That's always entertaining for me.
It doesn't happen much, but there's usually 3 to 4 players a year where they at some point around this time, they're like, all right, time to go show Sam what I've been hiding from him and showing everyone else. And I'm like, whoa.
It wasn't that I was hiding him from you. That was just the best
like
game
just
I'd
the
seen.
player themselves are just like, it's like they're hiding from me. And then it was like Daniil Boo last year. We talked about Daniil Boo being similar, but not to the same extent because I was really low on Daniil Boo the point where I was like, yeah, maybe the end of the second. By year end, he was
Right.
like 12th on my board.
Yeah, and he's been pretty good this year.
Yeah.
But if that's all we've got, then I guess we can jump right into the story in the title of the episode, which is, again, like I said, the man on the back of this jersey, Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. So to be perfectly clear, there's a lot of conflicting information. Well, not conflicting, but I'd say semantic information kind of flying around, where people are saying there's a $12 million a year contract on the table. Some people are saying that they haven't offered him a contract yet. Some say he doesn't want to sign a contract yet, and some say he doesn't want to sign a contract, period. It seems to be all over the place. I mean, for me personally, Elliot Friedman is a guy who I trust a lot, and he's usually, I'd say, on the more conservative end of things with sharing information. And I mean, his understanding is that Pettersson doesn't seem super interested in signing right now. The Vancouver Canucks obviously want to sign him. Why wouldn't you? And so, I mean, what Friedman reported over the weekend was that teams are calling about him and seeing if he's available because he hasn't signed a deal yet. Now, for posterity, Pettersson is a free agent, a restricted free agent this summer. So only Vancouver can sign him unless a team offer sheets him. I mean, would you offer sheet Elias Pettersson if you had the chance for 4 first-round picks, which is probably what it would be?
Absolutely.
I mean, if I'm going to give up 4 first-round picks to offer sheet somebody to be Pettersson, but man, like that's the type of move where if your franchise isn't literally locked in everywhere else and you just whiff on anything after making that signing, hey boy.
I mean, the way I see it is teams trade like multiple first-round picks and stuff for players that are certainly not Elias Pettersson, like somewhat often.
Like, it is, by that logic, then the answer is yes. But I also think when teams do that stuff, I'm like, what are you doing? So
like 4 Ben Sherratt trades over 4 years, or 1 Elias Pettersson up at the front. I'd probably,
when you view it like that, sure. I also will take the Elias Pettersson. Thank you very much. And by the way, we're going to talk about Ben Sherratt later, Detroit fans. But that's just 4 awful trades. So like, I like to think that my bar would be a little bit higher, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But okay, so with Pettersson, I mean, we could chat about what this potentially means, but I mean, in my mind, this kind of looks like a guy who doesn't want to sign a contract right now. And there seems to be this, like, you know, this happens in Toronto all the time, AJ, where I feel like with players who don't sign as soon as they can in Toronto, it slowly snowballs over the course of the year of like, oh, well, what if something's wrong? Or let's just maybe throw out there that something's wrong and maybe this player is going to get traded after all and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden the player signs a deal, right? So, I mean, Pettersson has just under a year to sign a deal. He could go until December this year if he wanted to, which I doubt he will. But I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting. To me, it's interesting how this kind of went from a guy who just kind of doesn't want to sign a deal to a guy who, you know, they're saying might get moved. So for $12 million a year, he would become the 3rd highest paid player in the NHL behind Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon.
But Austin Matthews deal kicks in next year.
Yes, so Austin Matthews would be part of that group as well next year. I mean, I cannot imagine the Vancouver Canucks without Elias Pettersson.
I can. They'd be bad.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Man's not wrong.
I mean, I love Quinn Hughes and Demko and a few other pieces, and I do want to see that this team actually like puts it together, despite all of the misfortune that the Canucks have experienced since like drafting Pettersson. But it would be extremely unfortunate for them to lose them. My gut instinct is that he just resigns.
Of course.
Because that's what always happens with this stuff. And it, like, I think I've just reached that age where it's like, stop speculating.
Well, and the other thing too is like, if I'm his agent, it depends on what's actually happening here. But if I'm his agent, I'm either going, Petey, don't sign now. Like, your team might win the Stanley Cup this year. If you're the number one center on a team that won the Stanley Cup when no one expected them to maybe even make the playoffs or make a run,
100-point season, like,
we could probably do better than 12, right? Like, like Austin Matthews hasn't won a Stanley Cup. You have, Austin Matthews hasn't been to a conference final.
10.5.
You have, right? So as an agent, you could probably go to that and say, yeah, like, we could do that.
I just get the sense that he is going to re-sign eventually.
Of course.
He's just not going to do it right now. The only thing that's a little troubling is that at least when William Nylander's contract negotiations were going on this year, you knew that he wanted to be there. He came out, he said it outright, I can't envision myself anywhere else. With Pettersson, I saw like a little feature that Elliot did with him over the summer where he went to Sweden. And Petey's like, we'll see. And Petey's, from what I get the sense of, is kind of a quieter dude. And Vancouver is not a quiet place to play. So that might actually be part of it if it is going to happen. I still think at the end of the day, he's going to be a Vancouver Canuck. And he's going to be one of their greatest players of all time at the end of it. But you never know, man. And if he gets traded somewhere, I'm thinking it's Carolina. I'm really thinking it's Carolina if he's going anywhere.
I mean, the first team that popped into my head was Buffalo.
I said Buffalo.
Carolina, but like, I feel like Elias Pettersson doesn't really give off the vibe of someone who would enjoy being in Buffalo. Like, if it were up to him.
Yeah, because he hates losing.
Well, sure, but the Buffalo Sabres would certainly not lose as much with him in the lineup as opposed to who they would give away.
But it's like, would he be in a better situation in Buffalo than he is in Vancouver? I think not.
No, but like, that's the other thing too, is like, why are you leaving Vancouver? Like, the city adores him, and he's like their best player they've had in a long time. Well, not a long time, but like quite a while.
Yes.
And it just like, I just can't, like, that's the other thing is if I'm his agent, I'm like, are you, if this is true and he's like, I don't know, maybe I'm not really feeling Vancouver anymore and I want to go somewhere else, I'll be like, are you positive about that? Like, do you understand? Like, especially if the team goes
6 months and think about it.
Yeah, like if they go to the conference finals or something and like go to 7 games and just fall short, and then Pettersson just like voluntarily is like, nah, I'm out of here. It's like, I mean, you could bring up Mark Messier in Vancouver about how that went, but I don't think people would be big fans of that.
No, I'm gonna avoid getting shot by Vancouver fans.
The problem too with Pettersson is like he's going to command so much money that teams like a lot of them don't really have the cap space that can be budgeted to him right now. At least teams that are in a position to win more, like Detroit might come to mind as a team that could use an Elias Pettersson, and a Pettersson-Larkin top 2 center pair would be quite something.
Well, every team could use an Elias Pettersson.
Well, of course, yeah.
But like, as I mentioned earlier, Carolina, I think, is the only place that realistically makes sense. If he's not going to be in Vancouver, like realistically, Vancouver makes the most sense, and that's where he's going to be. And I honestly think that at the end of the day, he's going to stay as a Canuck.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. But if he doesn't, there's a lot of money coming off the books in Carolina. And so they're going to have the available space to do it. And Carolina likes being bold like that. So
that is true.
But they do give you an upper, like they give you a limit. So that's the other thing. Like, Carolina won't pay over what they think you're worth, where other teams will. So that complicates it a little more. I just think it's fun to kind of speculate on this stuff because I really don't think this is going to happen at all.
No, I don't believe so either. I just can't imagine it. I just can't. But I mean, and it's another thing too, where if Vancouver does go, you know what, if he really doesn't want to be here, let's trade him. Like, what do you even get for him? Like, I feel like that would be the biggest player available for trade in a long time. Like, you could say Jack Eichel, but he had injury uncertainty, and he's basically
undeniably going to be going for a little bit more than Eichel, even though they should have been viewed as equals, just because we know Eichel turned out to be fine health-wise.
Well, and Eichel also specified like Vegas as one of the few teams they would trade him to that he would accept, right? That I can recall. But anyway, you were going to say something, producer man.
Oh yes, Matthew Tkachuk was the biggest player traded recently.
Right.
And I would say Yeah.
I was just gonna say that's also one where it's like he gave them a small, short list of
Yeah.
destinations. Like if it's Pettersson, like it's unless he's doing the same thing, which maybe he would, but I feel like it would be much more open season. But if it isn't, I don't know.
Well, it came out of nowhere with Kachuk, right? Like, kind of.
Yeah,
They were more
that's
worried
true.
about losing Johnny Gaudreau, and then Matthew Kachuk just said, "No, I don't want to be here, but
Yeah, he
go
just
get a
like
go get a king's ransom for me."
Right.
felt like he just got traded out of, I wouldn't say, I guess, nowhere, but like that one moved quickly given the scale of the player, whereas this one definitely won't be happening that way. It's getting built up into something.
Yeah, it was percolating for a little bit, but it didn't really sort of snowball until the very end there.
And then you now have this. where
Right.
it's
I was
like, if it's a big deal, like it's already starting, the conversations are starting. It could be if he doesn't sign in by like, mid-July, like this is going to grow and grow.
Oh, yeah.
What am I saying? Mid-July, by the draft, people are going to be losing their minds.
Right. I mean, yeah, and he could sign an extension tomorrow. I mean, it seems like he doesn't want to sign one in the middle of a season, which is not the first time that has happened.
Yep.
If I'm a Canucks fan, though, like I think we've said it a few times, like I'm not panicking.
I wouldn't panic.
I think that this is
I'd be super upset though.
in a way, I also feel like people like Friedman are out there talking about this a little bit to try to like settle people on this, like because he's been a little tepid about it, where it's more there's semantic discussions going on here. Like some people are saying this, but they're saying the same thing a different way.
Yeah.
And he basically was like, if he is a pending RFA and you haven't signed him yet, if it were Austin Matthews and I were a general manager, I'd be calling Vancouver and being like, yeah, you haven't signed this guy yet who has 100 points, like, or could have 100 points. Like,
Yeah, like what's up?
what's going on? Like,
Can I
what's
have
what's
him?
the deal? Yeah. So it's like he said, like that you're not doing your job if you're not doing stuff like that, which is true.
Yeah.
So, but it seems like some people out there are a lot more confident that this is like, a bit more of a dramatic situation.
But that's like par for the course
Yeah.
in media with this. And when there's a storyline like this, and then like Friedman doesn't give such clear clarification as to the status of how Vancouver's how serious Vancouver is with these trade talks and the like, everyone's gonna cover the spectrum just on the off chance that they're right. They're like, I told you so.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, sure. Nobody's committing to saying anything with actual detail, which makes me just kind of throw it all in the trash unless Friedman says something, or like a very well hooked up Vancouver beat reporter. But I don't know who Vancouver's like media is. So
Yeah. I don't know. I look at this situation and you see it every year with like a big name player leaving a market potentially.
Yeah.
And most of the time it doesn't happen. And it's for a reason,
Yeah.
because the teams that have those players have built their team around them. They're catering to them constantly. It's like, why would you leave that? Like, unless something really, really bad happened to you, or you're just like, the relationship can't be salvaged. I just think he's going to stay. He's going to get a boatload of money. He's a great player. And I think the Canucks are going to have an even better chance to compete for cups, like, years out from now too. Like, I don't know that they win this year. I actually don't think they do, but I think down the road there's a real good chance with what they've brought so far.
Yeah. I could see that. The thing too is the thing that kind of set all this off today was a tweet from I can't remember his name, Rick Dollywall, that's it. Basically saying, quote, Canucks aren't getting any indication from Pettersson that he wants to be here long term. There's frustration there. I have no intel he wants out. So the important thing is the last sentence.
yeah,
he has no information.
Something else.
Yeah,
and then
he
the
has
last
no
sentence is,
information.
but there's nothing.
that he wants out. But, and this is me thinking a different way about this, the Canucks aren't getting any indication that he wants to be here long term. To me, that sounds like the most European thing ever. Like,
Yeah,
just be like, why are you bothering me? I'm playing now.
I told you in the off season that I wasn't going to do this until the summer. Why are you talking to me again?
Yeah.
Can we just
So
not
it's like,
do this?
Yeah, I mean, this might just be also a bit of a cultural thing of like, please leave me be and I'll figure this out. We'll figure it out later. Like,
Yeah.
there's no rush, really.
There's just a lot of like, you can just kind of keep giving Pettersson and the whole Vancouver situation the benefit of the doubt until someone comes out with a tweet that's like, okay, guys, something might actually happen. And
Yeah.
it's someone saying it with a little bit of like, It's Friedman saying it was some enthusiasm. or something
Petterson
like that.
to CAR because he's doing it.
There you go.
Doing it quick to get out the report as fast as possible.
Exactly. I'm just going to interject very briefly because I got a notification that it is 8 minutes into the second period, I think, or 12 minutes in. I don't really know based on Google's clock display.
And Petterson was just traded.
No, the Washington Capitals are beating the Ottawa Senators 6-3 at the moment, and it's just about halfway through the game. So there's that interesting little tidbit. Shane Pinto already with 3 points. Same with Brady Tkachuk. So there's that. So
that
that's a
could
fun
have some
night.
playoff implications for the
Yep.
Capitals.
Alexei Protas with 3 points tonight.
Okay.
Again, Alexei Protas in the NHL. If you had told me that
Sure.
a few years ago, I would have thought you were nuts.
Honestly,
but that's okay.
I'm still kind of perplexed at Shane Pinto being as good as he is.
Well, he's
a good player. I got
Good
no
player.
doubt. It's just one of those ones where I'm like, okay, I was wrong. But like, when I remember watching him, like after he was drafted and being like, okay, yeah, sure.
Well, and he's also missed like half of the season, right? So that's even extra amazing for him. But anyway, I just felt like I had to interject on that. Speaking of individual players with crazy storylines, I mean, I think we got to talk about Matt Rempe a little before we go on to the NFL.
Yo, dude,
NHL
please
playoff
stop
picture.
getting punched in the face for a little bit, man. I know you're never going to hear this, but like, dog, please stop getting punched in the face for a little bit. You were one entertaining guy. I would like to see you be entertaining for like a while.
Look, the way I see it, these are adults. I have problems with like kids fighting, like major junior hockey fights. I feel like are bad.
I'm with you on that. In the NHL, it's like you're grown ass.
You
can
know,
make your decisions.
You are either a huge moron or you do not care if you are fighting in the NHL these days. Like you either don't know for some reason, you're just head in the sand, or you don't care. And I feel like it's much more often the latter.
It's almost always the latter.
So look, if Matt Rempe wants to go out there and drop the gloves immediately every time he steps on the ice, so be it, right? Like the fans love it. It might not be the healthiest option. He might take up a roster spot, but I don't know. I mean, I also just have memories of when the NHL used to employ guys like him.
Yeah.
Normally, right? Like the Toronto Maple Leafs having Colton Orr and Fraser McLaren on the same line. And they were bad. Like a lot of these guys are bad. But Matt Rempe,
that very, very distinctly. And because I was a dumb kid, I loved them.
Well, but the thing too about that was in Toronto, like it was coming from the top. Like Brian Burke was saying outwardly, like, this is what we want, right? It's like, this is how we're gonna be. We're gonna be quote unquote the kiss of death, tough to play against. Like if a team just wants to be tougher to play against, like we're
going to sacrifice good hockey, but we're going to make sure you leave winning with bruises.
Exactly.
Son.
It's
that
like the misunderstanding of what that means. But Matt Rempe, I mean, you can't fault the entertainment factor.
No, not at all. Like he's super entertaining. I just like, man, getting punched in the face hurts, and like getting punched in the face repeatedly hurts. And getting punched in the face by world-class athletes probably hurts a little bit more than just getting punched in the face repeatedly, and then to do it multiple times a week over the span of a year. Like, man, I watch MMA. Well, I don't really anymore, but I've watched a lot of MMA. I don't get squeamish when I see the guys dropping the gloves on the ice. I just go like, when I see him doing it over and over and over again, I'm like, oh yeah, that's not something that anybody usually does that regularly. Please take care of your face and that organ that's inside of your head. That's kind of a little important. But beyond that, I mean, hey man, it's a free country. You do you, bro. You're 21.
Yeah. Just ask Nick Kyprios there, AJ, eh?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. If you want to see a gruesome fight, the one that ended Nick Kyprios' career with the Toronto Maple Leafs, that was a heck of a bout. But did you see the fight that he had the other day against Nick Delorier?
Yeah.
Oh, it was awesome. It was so much fun.
Both of them were just
literally
filling each other in.
I remember when I first saw the clip length, my instinct was like, I had just this thought, which you get a lot when watching, is like, why do people make like 2-3 minute long clips for these short sequence, and then it just kept going.
Yeah, they just kept
going and going.
They were throwing in.
I was like, the time I fight in, I'm like, I think I'm only going to get one replay in the 2.5 minute long clip. That's insane.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to me too, like how it's kind of the more that we've talked about guys like Matt Rempe a little bit over the years is like it is true to a point where it's like different brands of hockey exist and they can be effective in different ways. Matt Rempe's style of play so far in the NHL is not my jam. I mean, the guy right now per 60 minutes is sitting at how many penalty minutes? 12 major penalties per 60 minutes. So there's that. 16 total, 65. He's on pace. He has a per 60 minute rate of penalty minutes of 65.95. So he's averaging a penalty minute more than 1 per minute of ice time. So he has more penalty minutes than he has ice time. So there's that. And he's the only player in the league there. The only other one who's even close that played games was Jonah Gadjevich. And Jonah Gadjevich is at 25. So, which is also crazy.
Whack.
For every minute of ice time that Jonah Gadjevich has been out there, like almost half of it on top is in the penalty box. Like that's insane. That's crazy.
What?
Yeah. But I mean, Matt Rempe,
my brain just was set on fire. I think Rempe just punched me.
Small samples, baby. 20 minutes of ice time it's just crazy. But yeah,
he's got a goal. Matt and Rempe,
and he has a goal.
I think he has 2
was
points.
That the one? Yeah, was the goal the one that went off of his bum or something? It like was in front. He was in front of the net, and it's
just a good old cheek swat. And
someone scored off their bum, and I don't remember if it was him. Or
I know
if he
scored
one.
an ugly goal. I don't remember exactly how, but he said,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's like the ugliest first goal you're ever gonna get, baby." But I'm happy I got it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, a goal is a goal, right?
Goal's a goal.
But yeah, it's funny. Like one of the liberating things mentally for me over the years has been other people are free to prioritize things that I don't think are super beneficial.
Oh yeah, no,
you know?
it's do your thing, bro.
I'm highly entertained by Matt Rempe.
Yeah, do your thing, man. This is wild.
Yeah, but you probably won't see a guy like that on my roster generally. But I mean, that doesn't mean I don't like, tough boys. But you know what I'm getting at.
Yep.
So it's fun to watch. I certainly have been entertained watching him. Except for that hit on Nathan Bastian. That was not great. That was not a good time. That was not a great time. But anyway, we don't have to get too much into that.
How many games did he get? Oh wait.
Yeah. Yeah. That was not a great moment for him. Anyway,
or the Department of Player Safety.
Or the Department. Well, they want to make hockey violent again, but only if it's before the whistle blows.
Yeah,
if
just
the
as
whistle
long as
hasn't
it's not
blown,
a revenge thing.
Yeah. If the whistle hasn't blown, do whatever you want, He got a major penalty for that, right? And thrown out of the game, I think. I could be wrong.
I believe so.
Yeah, something like that.
But I'm not someone who I'm more so, let me rephrase this. I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, I guess, check, but you'd think, right? Like,
I would like to. One thing I would like to see is when the Department of Player Safety doesn't suspend someone, an explanation from them as to why. Like you get an explanation as to why they do suspend someone, but when they do not, it's just sort of like meh, or like why they fined someone. Why did you fine a guy instead of give them a suspension?
yeah,
Because I feel like that could also be kind of interesting as seeing their arguments as to, because I'd be curious why they would see a play like that from him, unless they're just looking at it like he's 6'8", what's he supposed to do? But it's like, well, there are other players who are that tall and they don't do that. And Nathan Bastian is also very tall himself. Like, I don't know. It's a weird.
I mean, I saw somebody brought up the best part about it was just like every NFL player on the D line goal is to literally murder the quarterback on every play. But they're gigantic. They're far bigger. They're crazy explosive, and quarterbacks often don't see where they're coming from, and they don't really get blindsided ever.
Right.
So they just learn how to hit people who are smaller than them within the confines of the rules. And Rempe has to absolutely lower his point of contact. That is just the rule is the rule. I remember, I think it was Ryan Whitney tweeted saying something like, that's his big. What's he supposed to do? Is like, bro, what do you mean that's what he's supposed to lower yourself? His hips aren't static cement. Like he can absolutely lower himself. And if not, don't lead with your shoulder, lead with
Well,
something else.
He also went into that hit fast. Like he went in hard on
I
that.
agree. I don't
Like-
think he. I think it was one of those just like he's the star of the moment this week, like the flavor of the
I guess.
like it just all in his head. I don't get the vibe. I haven't really watched a whole lot of Rempe, so like I don't know. I don't feel like he's trying out there to goon everybody when he's on the ice. I think he's just out trying to be like a big enforcer type.
He's trying to earn a job.
Yeah,
Like he's trying to say, hey, you should keep me up here, right?
like I may have accidentally killed that guy, but if I lowered myself, I can kill them and not.
And it'd be a good thing. You'd think that was good, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, yeah. But anyway, it's entertaining player, through all the warts. It's been a fun week. Speaking of a fun week, the NHL playoff picture has interestingly solidified a little bit. AJ, you and I were talking a few weeks ago about how insane the downstretch of the year could be after the trade deadline.
Oh
and
yeah.
how certain teams between the trade deadline and now might have their destinies set in stone in a way. Well, that seems to, be quickly changing. If you weren't aware, in the Eastern Conference, the two wildcard teams, Detroit and Tampa, are sitting 7 points ahead at least of the New Jersey Devils, and 9 points ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins, which was the team that we were talking about last Thursday. So there's that. That's not a good situation to be in. So that puts the Penguins in a bit of a different position. Granted, the Philadelphia Flyers have 67 points. So if they were in the wild card, they would be behind Detroit and Tampa. But unfortunately, that's not how the playoffs work. So that's getting close to, how it's going to be.
The one thing is, though, for Pittsburgh is they've got a lot of games in hand on teams.
Right.
So, like,
Five.
they have 5 games in hand on Tampa. So they have to win every single game or win 4 of them and go to overtime once and lose to tie it. And against Philly, they actually can make up that ground. But they'd have to win 3 of those games to do that, which is manageable.
Yeah. If they maintain the points percentage pace they're at, they would finish ahead of New Jersey, but they would not be in a wild card position. So if they maintain the same pace they're at, they have 5 games in hand. If they win 2 of them and lose 1 in overtime, then they're probably going to be right in the same spot, maybe ahead of New Jersey.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting.
I think the big thing that happened this weekend is like Tampa beat New Jersey and beat the Islanders. And like those are
huge.
teams that are chasing them. Like that game against the Islanders might have been the nail in the coffin for the Long Island team, but man, that game was insane.
3-4-3 in their last 10. The teams around them also haven't been particularly spectacular, but losing to Tampa, that's a 4-point game that you probably want to win.
Yeah.
The Patrick Waugh era has not gone super great so far, I don't think. But AJ, you were saying
could have seen that one coming.
AJ, you were saying they're a little more loosey goosey, which I guess is kind of fun.
Yeah, like ever since Barry Trotz left, they've opened up a bit. Like, and look at what Matt Barzal's doing now that he's not under the confines of that system. Granted, that system got you to 2 Eastern Conference Finals where they lost to the aforementioned Tampa Bay Lightning in both those series. But it's like that team at that point was greater than the sum of its parts. Now without, like, in my opinion, the best coach during that time, Barry Trotz, they're just not able to keep up the same way. And I was looking at it last night, like, what can they actually do? They're in a bit of a rough spot in terms of money.
Yeah.
Right? So like
bit of one.
Yeah.
But it's hard, man. Like, what are you gonna do with that team? Like, they don't have any prospects, as Will's prospect tracker or like the prospect
they're dead last.
Yeah, he's dead last.
Yep.
They don't have a ton of money available. Like, they still have a lot of guys who are on long-term deals that are making multi-million dollars. Like Anders Lee, I think, is for 3 more years at 7. I think JG Peugeot
2 more after this.
Yeah, and then JG Peugeot 2 more after this year.
Yes,
at 5.
5 million.
It's still 2 more years on
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah, right?
He's only 31. So there's that.
Holy, that was a contract to be signed.
But AJ's right. Like, they're giving $5 million to Kyle Palmieri this year and next year.
He's good. It's just he's
right.
older.
And it adds up, right? Like they've got, and this year in the off season, they've only got, by my count, like $5 million coming off the cap. Really?
I think it's a little. I think it's a little more. I think it's a little more.
2, 3, 4. No, it's like 5 million. I mean, you can feel free to look yourself, but they're also adding 4.25 to Ilya Sorokin's contract.
So in other words, they're just not in the best situation, and they
Not
should
really.
probably be wanting to make the playoffs this year because they're only going to get harder. But it don't seem like that's going to be happening because they lost the important game to the Tampa Bay Bulls.
Yeah, they've already traded 2 of their draft picks this year. They traded a second-round pick in 2026 already.
Oof.
But other than that, they've got all their picks. So I don't know. Like Lou Lamoriello, though, doesn't strike me as the rebuild type. I mean, in Toronto, he was kind of forced to, but you know, there weren't many rebuilds in New Jersey when he was there, from what I can recall.
Luck navigating.
But they won a lot while he was there.
They did. That's the thing, right? That's the flip side. But yeah, it's not looking good for that team either. At Buffalo as well, they're kind of on the outs. Clearly, if the Ottawa Senators are losing 7 million to nothing tonight against Washington, that's also going to stretch that a little bit wider, even more than it already is.
Yeah, Washington's kind of fascinating because they're not that good of a team, and yet they're still performing kind of okay. Like they're managing to keep themselves in it. And not that I've watched a ton of Washington Capitals hockey, but I always really liked Spencer Carberry in Toronto. Like there was a time where the Leafs power play was so bad, and he made it so much better to the point where it became like a top 2 power play in the league. And so I put a lot of faith into Carberry. And it looks like he's been able to do something out of that.
Well, so the Washington Capitals have the fewest goals scored in the Eastern Conference this season. Second fewest is the Montreal Canadiens.
Hey.
The Montreal Canadiens have 163 goals this year.
Oh my goodness, that's
the
bad.
Washington Capitals. Take a guess at how many goals the Washington Capitals have scored so far this year.
147.
In 56 games.
That's just a guess.
8.
8?
No, 155 and a half.
144.
Oh, I was close.
The Washington Capitals have scored 144 goals. That would put them only ahead.
That's not adding tonight's totals, right?
Yeah, no, not tonight. But
so
even
it's
then,
like 6 more.
Yeah. So that puts them still, even if they score 6, which they did, score 6 tonight, they're up to 150 goals. They're still 1 behind Anaheim and above only Chicago and San Jose. San Jose has scored 118 goals this year.
Woof.
That is horrifying. That's horrible. Yeah. If you're listening to the show, Sam is staring into my soul right now.
What?
Yeah. Washington has 123 goals.
JD Young, if you're listening.
Yeah. Sorry,
bro,
buddy.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was this rough.
Yeah.
At least William Eklund did that 6 spin.
That 1 6 spin.
He
Connor
did a
Bedard.
second one right before it. It just didn't go as viral.
Connor Bedard has over 10% of Chicago's goals. So does Jason Dickinson. Nick Foligno has over 10% of their team's goals this year. It's crazy. What a crazy season of hockey this has been.
Wow.
But anyway, speaking of the West, the playoff picture in the West is also solidifying, it seems, quite quickly. There might be some teams that are still in it, but right now you've got in the wild card, you've got LA and Nashville.
Heck yeah.
They're 7-2-1 in their last 10.
So in other words, they were gods who then fell off extremely hard and extremely violently, and then were like, "Oh wait, we're gods," and then went right back to goddom.
They were unsustainably bad,
and
right?
They were like good at the beginning of the year,
right? Yeah, so they're kind of a weird team of like
they're sick.
Ups and downs.
They are sick.
But I look at I look at the LA Kings, and I still have faith. I watch the Kings. Like if I'm up late at night and there's hockey on and it's the Kings, I'll throw it on. I like the way they play. They've got some good players.
I will watch Quentin Byfield in the NHL all day, every day. He's become one of my favorite players to watch in all of hockey, anywhere, any league, any age.
Yeah, and I look at them and I go, well, they kind of like the reputation out there or the storyline out there with them is, oh, we need a goalie. And it's like, but they also, out of all the teams that aren't in a divisional playoff spot, They are the team. Actually, they have the second fewest goals against this season so far in the Western Conference, other than Winnipeg. So for all the talking about LA's goaltending, they seem to be keeping the puck out of the net pretty well.
I think this is a more recent thing for them. Like, I think Cam Talbot was doing really well at the beginning of the year, and then he fell off to the point where he's not even their starter anymore. It's Big Save Dave in net.
Which is wild.
Big
David
Save
Riddick.
Dave.
David Riddick. Future 2025 Vezina winner David Riddick. Like, I'm sick of this
Leafs
slander.
legend David Riddick.
Leafs legend. Yeah, Toronto Maple Leafs legend David Riddick.
Nashville Predators starting goalie legend.
Yeah, he is sitting with a .917 save percentage with 9 wins and 3 losses and 3 overtime losses. He's having
Nashville
a good
or Calgary that he started in before LA.
Calgary.
Sorry, I own him in a team in a fantasy league where I play as Nashville. That's
a
why
shame.
I was like, wait, what? That doesn't seem right as soon as I said it.
I can't chirp about fantasy hockey goaltending because one of my leagues I've got Philip Gustafson and Philip Grubauer. Oof. Yeah,
but
that's
like,
not
I can
great.
one up you easily.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I went and acquired what I believed to be the best valued goalie in fantasy in 3 separate leagues. And all 3 leagues, it was genius. I paid very little for what was a very obviously high performing player. And that's why I lost Robin Lehner 3 times.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be Robin Lehner. I just knew it.
That's how I lost Robin Lehner 3. That's how 3 entire playoff constructed teams were just immediately taken off and haven't made the playoffs once since that fiasco happened.
Yeah.
And everyone has just been like, well, that's unfortunate.
I drafted Rodion Amarov once in a fantasy draft and kept him on a dynasty team for a while. So that is my luck. Also, in a fantasy league that started one year, I drafted Henrik Lundqvist, and then like 3 weeks later, he's like, "Yeah, I can't play because my heart sucks."
Oh, that's
so I went, "Oh, great! I've got a Hall of Fame goaltender who's like sick and not going to play." So, and not good sick, like bad
sick. I can just not to derail it into fantasy talk, but just as one final story, in the first league I've ever been in, and what I would consider my main league, I have owned the following goalies at some point in time. I've owned Shesterkin. I've owned Demko. I don't say this one with happiness, but I owned Binnington last year when he was complete poo.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's good again, but I traded him for another goalie. I think it was Ville Husso, who at the time wasn't complete poo and kind of, I've had a lot of really good goalies in that league. I think I also had Swayman at one point, but I had to flip him in a different deal. I had goalies on goalies on goalies coming out in like every direction, and all these awesome deals at the right time showed up. Like Demko was traded legitimately smartly, and Shesterkin deal was like an insane, but I traded Shesterkin for what ended up being 2 2020 first round picks and like 3 other assets. With those picks, I took Rodion Amirov and Marco Rossi.
Classic.
Like the way that the bad luck.
Sam is validating himself to his imaginary owner, being like, "Oh,
bro, I'm trying."
Yeah, Sam's on the road.
Trying.
Sam's on the hot seat.
I so should be fired by now.
Sam's on the hot seat, like my boys, the Arizona Coyotes, 0-8-2 in their last 10. By the way, throwing that out there.
They're on an 11-game losing streak.
So that means they're going to be on an 11-game win streak, make the playoffs, and go to the Stanley Cup final, right?
No,
that's all they need. Yes.
No.
Mm-hmm.
It means that they should have
I'm going down with the ship
first to take your Isovkovsky.
I'm going down with the ship, fellas. I'm losing it. I'm going down with the Arizona Coyotes. It's going to happen.
They'll be better next year, and they're going to be a lot of fun. So it's not a big deal.
I hope so. They're going to be big. They're going to be a big team. But yeah, in the West, just to close this out, yeah. So you're looking at LA and Nashville. I mean, I watched Nashville the other night. I'm not totally sold on them. Not that I have seen them every game, but I don't know. I just look at teams like, it's crazy that Minnesota's 4 games out of the playoffs after everything they've been through. But I just feel like someone out of St. Louis, Calgary, maybe Seattle, maybe Minnesota at this rate, but probably I can't imagine that catching up to a team like Nashville.
Feelings to St. Louis.
Yeah, like St. Louis has been up and down this year, but they have a decent looking team, and they've been pretty good with Drew Bannister behind the bench. And Nashville, I don't know. I just don't. It just doesn't sit right in the vibes. The vibes don't sit right. But anyway,
I just want to go back to
go,
the East very quickly. So making the Metro even more complicated is now Drysdale's hurt. So that's gonna make it harder for Philly. And if they trade Walker and or Sealer, that also makes it harder for Philly. So I still think there's a spot open. I just look at it as the 5 Atlantic teams are probably going to make it. Then the Rangers and the Hurricanes probably going to make it. It's just going to come down to the last spot in the Metro.
Yeah. Man, yeah, apparently
For the Montreal Canadiens.
Who are not in the Metro.
They are not, no. It apparently is the same shoulder that was injured with Jamie Drysdale in 2022-23 that kept him out the whole year. That is problematic. Yeah, shoulders are not fun things.
Man,
yeah.
Drysdale it's amazing how much has happened to him.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, I know we've talked about this a lot and you don't fully agree with me. I was a big believer that Drysdale, if he got to go back to the OHL immediately after the 2020 draft for a year or two to kind of open up his game a bit more and use the mobility and use the skating, just find those extra aggressive moments to be oh wait, I can really get into doing these habits as well. He wouldn't have been like Makar or Hughes or anything like that, but he could have had so much ozone potential as well, not to mention the transitional play and the defensive play. I love what Jamie Drysdale could be still, without question. He was one of my favorite defensive prospects I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Big fan. But he got moved to the AHL quick where he was good, but you can't expand your game and move up at the same time, not at that big a level. And then it just kind of COVID hit, all these different things kept happening. Now it's the shoulder injuries. It's just
yeah,
the fact that he's still so good and so impactful is crazy, given the fact that so many things have roadblocked him.
Since being drafted, Jamie Drysdale has played one full season. He played 24 games.
That makes me want to smash my head through a wall.
It looks like I mean, I think one of them was the pandemic season where he started the year with the AHL team, 14 games, but then he played 24 with the Ducks, but that's still not a full year.
No.
A full year the next year, played 81 games, and then he's played 35 games in the last 2 seasons combined.
Oh my!
And he's out.
Goodness.
So that's not great. But I mean, he was a lot of fun watching him with the Flyers. I saw a couple of Flyers games with him, and you could it's so sad too because you can see it. You watch him and you're I see the thing,
the
right?
Footwork is just
beautiful. His skating is so good. The skill level's so good. You can see it, right?
He's so composed, which I know is it's not supposed to be oh wow, look at the poise of this player, but he is so composed. He handles pressure so well. He was so. I'll be so upset if Drysdale just doesn't have a very long, high level career because everything had to go wrong for it to stop him.
He's turning 22 in April, so it's not over.
Not at all.
But and shoulder injuries are hard. Shoulder injuries are not easy to work with.
I have the most minor shoulder neck injury from years ago, and it still is it awful. And
shoulders. The thing about shoulders and the body in general, the more flexible the joint, the more likely you could really damage it. The points of injury for a shoulder are a lot higher than a knee, for example.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more range of motion, and there's so many little bits and bobs in your shoulder that teeny little cartilage and muscles, and it's just not a thing that you really at least in your knee, your ACL is pretty big and sizable, and you can just take a tendon from your elbow and that's it, call it a day. Not the same really with the shoulder stuff, especially the rehab and stuff, but obviously hopeful that he figures it out, because you can definitely see what he's capable of when you watch him, especially recently with the Flyers.
Yeah, and last thing, Will, you brought up something before the show about Nikita Kucherov and Tampa's goal share that you wanted to share in the segment, but
so you mentioned that Nikita Kucherov had 102 points. Last night, was it?
It was yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, 102 points already in the season is ridiculous enough, but the Tampa Bay Lightning have only scored, 202 goals all season?
Just over 50%, baby.
Yeah,
Yes,
so-
that he's getting in on, and he got in on
Yeah.
all 4 yesterday.
which is so crazy. Like, I can't even imagine my team in the NHL scoring 4 goals and me having 4 points in that
Yep.
game. It's like, you're welcome, fellas. But yeah, first person to 100 points this season is Nikita Kucherov. McKinnon is not far behind at 96 points. Connor McDavid, after his quote-unquote slow start, is about to hit 90 as well himself. What a wonderful era of hockey we are sitting in the NHL
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
And Austin
Holy
Matthews
smokes.
probably going to hit 70 goals, baby.
No, he's going to hit 57, just like I said. He's going to get to 57 and not score
Screw
again.
you, Will. Stop cursing him.
That
For the-
I think he's going to hit 58.
All right, Sam's on board for
I
58.
hate both of you.
It is pretty insane that the next highest goal scorer in the NHL right now has 39 goals. Matthews crossed 50 before someone hit 40. That's ridiculous. Like, on its own. I can't. Anyway,
And
it's
we
kinda
almost went a
nuts.
whole episode without talking about the Leafs, and then I had
It's
to
true.
ruin it.
It's
You
true.
you almost made it, AJ.
It's true.
7-game win streak, baby. Let's go.
That is
Somebody
some-
set their computer on fire once you mentioned Leafs.
I mean, you can't deny, as much as anybody hates the Leafs, you can't deny that someone scoring 50 goals before someone hits 40
Is
is amazing. That's
Yes.
amazing.
yes.
Especially
Without
considering he
question.
scored like 30 of those in the last month and a half.
Carey Price would have done it.
Not true.
Just bombing every puck down the ice.
Montreal wouldn't get in enough situations where the other
No.
team would have to pull their goalie for him to
What?
be able
Who
to
said
score.
anything about? We don't need to talk about, but who said anything about pulling goalies? That's all I know.
Yeah,
Sam,
just shoot it at the net.
Sam, you know what? I'm not going to argue with stupid. All right.
Yeah, this is bait. Sam's trolling.
It's
This is
such bait.
This
It's
is why he's here.
such bait.
So yeah, I mean, we're almost at question time. I mean, we have it in here to quickly go over this pipeline ranking that I put out this morning that seemed to catch a little bit of attention on.
I'd probably
sides
you
of the
should probably
spectrum.
comment on the I read really quickly through the Twitter replies a few hours ago. And
Right.
there's a few people asked about the same couple teams like
So,
Toronto, San Jose, and
That
Detroit.
and some people also asked about the methodology behind it, and I think it is important to like understand how this
that's more
works.
important.
So, if you're not aware, Scouching subscribers at the partner level have access to a document that basically has every single NHL team separated into different sheets with all their prospects and where they play and a bunch of data that I pull and update and manipulate and blah blah blah. And basically, it just captures every team's prospect pipeline and sort of a general sentiment of where they're at and my own evaluation of them and such. So what I do though this year, what I've started to do, I should say, is essentially make a constant live updated, basically ranking of these different pipelines. The point is it's all data. Like none of it really includes subjective information, you know? Like it because I think it's also impossible to have a working knowledge of where all the prospects on all 32 teams, it's impossible to really have a good gauge of that. Like at some point you're going to start,
it would be like a full-time job, zero
Right.
prospect work of the draft,
Yes.
anything else.
and at some point you're BSing it. Like at some point you're just going,
That's
"Nah,
why
I
I
don't
don't like
know."
these- that's why I don't do stuff
Yeah,
like
it's why I
this.
don't do like top 100 prospects in the league kind of thing, because it's also you can talk yourself into circles and convince yourself about all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the point is it's like a data first perspective on where things are at. And I mean, I'm pretty happy with how it looks. So right now, just for the top 5 teams that were listed today, oh man, I'm gonna have to pick them up because I had to make some modifications before I put the public version out. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so Columbus, Seattle, Minnesota, Philadelphia, and Anaheim were the top 5 that popped out. And the bottom 5 were Washington, Colorado, Pittsburgh, Edmonton, and the Islanders lagged quite a ways behind all those teams. I feel decently okay about those two things.
None of those seem crazy.
There are obviously biases in it with regards to who drafts players more recently, because a lot of my data is age adjusted. So Columbus and Seattle especially have drafted a lot recently, and so that inflates them quite a bit. You know, like it's a fun little exercise for me. I don't take too much credence in it. People seemed to really use it as ammunition in their Twitter wars about how good their team is or how crap their team is in some other cases, which I always kind of find entertaining. But it doesn't take very long for me to mute those conversations either and just go, you know what, I think I'm just going to let the public handle this, and I'm going to live in blissful ignorance of what people are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. But
because it just kind of took on a life of its own, which I love. It's great. And I got a lot of questions from Red Wings fans about it because the Red Wings in this popped up as 23rd on the list. So this is where the subjective part comes in. Like with the Red Wings, the players that are at the top, like they're kind of in a unique situation in my database because they're tied for the most prospects in my database at 41. And they do have quite a few that are doing quite well.
yes.
Guys like Marco Kasper, Simon Edvinsson, Axel Sandin Pellikka, Dmitry Pechelnikov, Emmett Finney shows up very well in this, higher than Nate Danielson, which is kind of nutty, but in any case, we don't need to go into that. But the problem with Detroit in their case is there are a lot of guys at the other opposite end of the spectrum. Like it weighs it down so much that you end up further down the list. So generally, I think it's weighed well to favor players that are doing well more, because a lot of them who are doing really well are way out ahead of the average for their team. Guys like Connor Bedard are like a factor of 5 or 6 ahead of the team as an average. But with Detroit, there's just a lot of guys that drag them down, which kind of stinks. But that's a bit of a pitfall when you draft a lot a few years ago. And a lot of these guys like Elmer Soderblom, Teddy Niederbach, Albert Johansson, a bunch of guys we heard a lot about from Red Wings fans for a number of years have been fine AHL players this year, I guess. They've been okay. They've been fine, but if you're fine at that age, it doesn't show very well in my database.
I am what you would say, converted Yzerman fan, or I guess
you're not on the board with the Yzer plan anymore?
I'm not. I fell for this the same way that many others have, but the only way I can say it is like it's now 2024, and like the Yzer plan started many years ago, and the team is, they're hustling this year. The team is good, but like the drafting and like the way people talked about Detroit's drafting before the results really showed up, and now you see a lot of those players where like there was a lot of talk about some of these guys, and it's like, and I loved Niederbach specifically. I was a big Theodore Niederbach guy, and it's like I'm looking back at him now and I'm like,
I was not.
Yeah, I wasn't really on it with this guy.
I will say, editor's note, by the way, Mr. AJ, I think we need to make a supercut of Sam McGilligan saying Yzerman. I think we need that in our lives. Yeah,
Yzerman.
Just so you know.
Also, quickly, because it came up, somebody wanted to know where the Leafs are on on this ranking. I believe they're 9th.
One moment.
Correct?
They were, yes, they were
high.
9th.
Yeah.
They were 9th, I believe. Yes. I had to manipulate some of the data before I put out public stuff because some guys haven't played very many games and it skewed a lot. Like just Jeremy Poirier technically is one of the best prospects in the entire league right now, but he had 7 points in 4 games and then got injured and he hasn't played since.
Will just wanted to manipulate the data to fit his narrative.
That's the thing too. I specifically hate your team. I specifically hate all of the players that you draft, and they're all terrible. And I specifically went into my database and manipulated it to make them look awful.
And then
the Senators sitting,
I watched them do it.
The Senators are sitting at 26.
See, that's what I'm
definitely
definitely manipulated by Will.
Do you happen to remember, like 2 weeks ago, I sent you the list of everybody to draft. You plopped them in your little machine. You told me where I was.
Yep.
For every time Montreal drafted a player, I also drafted a player.
Yep. You finished. I think you're ahead of them. I think
I was definitely ahead of them, but I was curious where else.
Well,
standard on the league. I don't know.
But this is just math, and math is always wrong, right? So who cares? But anyway, just a fun little exercise.
0 with.
Right. Fun little exercise that I always enjoy putting out because it gets people talking, and when people talk, that's a good thing for me. But yeah, always a lot of fun to put that together and just see where people are at mentally, because boy howdy, it takes a life of its own. So yeah, basically, but anyway, so the methodology is relatively simple. It factors in the standard deviation of these ratings around the average for a team, and the average difficulty of the leagues that these guys play in, and all kinds of little factors that go into it. So obviously it's not who has the best prospects out there, right? It's more the whole system as a whole. Who are the ones that, do the thing. But anyway, we can move on to questions because it's past 9 o'clock. But before we do so, we're going to do an ad read. So, if you want to listen to some ads, feel free. But if you don't, grab a soda pop or...
No, you have to listen.
That's true. You have to listen. Never mind.
Absolutely
You're forbidden from
have
leaving.
To listen.
Yeah, don't. My dad's in the CIA. I can prevent you from leaving. So we're brought to you by Fanatics.
For Microsoft.
Yeah, that too. He also works for Microsoft. He moonlights for the CIA.
Fanatics code.
Yeah, we're brought to you by Fanatics. You can use our affiliate link below in the description, or you can scan the QR code in the chat window to provide a small kickback to the show and everything you buy in the store. You can also support Sam and I and a few other smart people and some others by supporting us through Puck Preps with a subscription where you can get all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs. We're also brought to you by Fractal Hockey Consulting, which is my business for hand-track targeted player analysis and recruitment packages for the NCAA, Europe, and beyond, with solutions for any organization's needs. And of course, Scouching.ca, which is obviously this website where you can subscribe for exclusive access to innovative data tools with unparalleled insights into draft prospects and players making their way into the hole, as they say, as the kids say these days.
Is that the end of the ad read?
Yes.
Can I extend it?
Sure.
Prep specifically.
Yeah.
Are you, random hockey listener, a fan of going on HF boards and going into the prospect section and creating threads about kids who are like 10 years old? You can say that you saw them so many years ahead of time. If so, I got a treat for you because Puck Preps will be releasing a list relatively soon on the 2009. So if you really want to start getting that analysis in and really start kind of knowing what you're talking about, you also want to talk about players who were born when I was entering high school. Hey, guess what? Puck Preps has got that for you. The best CHL draft crew around.
That is true.
The last of the Zoomers.
Yeah, when you
getting to the end of the Zoomers.
Oh my God. When you said first year of high school, I think I whistled.
What'd you graduate? 08, 09?
Yeah, I graduated high school in 2008. I was in university.
I actually exaggerated. I didn't start high school until 2010.
Oh
I realized as soon as I said it, I was like, crap, I'm off by a year. That math ain't math.
What am I doing?
I started high school in, what was it, 2013, 2014?
See, I was still in high school.
I had a job when you were in grade 12.
I also had a job when I was in grade 12.
No, when he was in grade 12. I had an actual JOB job.
Oh,
so did I.
Right?
What year you would have been grade 12 then? 2017, 2018?
Yeah, 2017,
when I was
2018.
I was in school.
Wow. Anyway, little crash course on how old we are. Our 7th one in a row. Anyway.
Me born in this century, the others born in the previous.
That's true. We were born the previous century to the producer. That's pretty cool. I don't know. Whatever.
I absolutely love telling people I'm born in the year 2000 and watching their face just do whatever it does.
Nothing to me, man. I'm like I did an advertisement for 2009 born hockey
but
players.
Sam, you're not that much older than me. Like when I tell 40-year-olds I'm born in the year 2000, they go, "Oh no, I'm old."
Like, I remember Y2K happening. I remember sitting and watching my television as the Times Square ball dropped to end 1999. I have that memory, and AJ didn't even exist yet. That's crazy to me.
No, I was still 11 months away.
Yeah, you didn't even exist, period. That's nuts. Anyway, we can move on to the questions. There was something you mentioned during that Puck Preps ad read that I totally forgot to bring up as well, your little Puck Preps thing, but the HF boards thing. Yeah, that ad read was targeted at about, 1 in every 15 million human beings on the planet, maybe more.
You know what's funny
100
is
million?
You think that, right? But then you go on the HF boards prospect page, and it's surprisingly bumping.
I honestly have not been to that website since like 2000.
I open it up about twice a year just to sit there and scroll, and about in every player, every 3 pages, you'll see one dude who's just bringing in like a nuanced take that's not ridiculous. And then you'll see like 8 dudes with 100,000 posts on the site just bodying him,
Yeah.
saying the most objectively incorrect. I've never seen this player before in my life, but I saw everyone else. It's crazy. Like it's fascinating to read. You honestly should read it, because sometimes like you see people in like the contain, and it's like, wow, they have their own idea of how these players work. Just if only they had watched them.
See, unlike you, I'm too busy during the day watching the games. So I can't go on HF boards because
I
I'm
said
too busy
once or
watching.
twice
Get
a year.
wrecked,
I
Sam.
didn't
Get
say.
wrecked, Sam.
I'm watching the games. People say I don't, but that's what I'm doing all day.
This is
So
true.
if anything, y'all need to watch the games, to
And
be honest.
I'll be watching the questions and reading them out for you because it's actually working for me today on my OBS board.
Oh, the questions. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'll read them out.
that's- All right, go nuts.
All right. So Rayanne asks, hair routine.
Oh, hair routine.
I
Well, let me tell you about greasiness.
I just use a powder thing. Like, you've seen it. No, you've seen it.
Oh, I
right?
have. Yes, I have.
It's this
Yeah.
crazy
I watched
holding
Sam
powder.
shower.
It's used
That's a
on
joke.
dry hair, so that you're so close to being fun, like a good one.
Right.
But when your hair is dry after a shower, you just take some of this powder and you just put it in your hair. You don't see it, but it holds it perfectly.
dry shampoo,
I didn't
right?
use it today. I was
No.
halfway here and I went, I didn't do my hair. Ah, crap. Oh well.
Fooled me.
Yeah, I don't really. Like, I don't know.
I get really bad dandruff in the winters. So I have like a dandruff shampoo that I use. It's not Head and Shoulders. It's like I'm probably just frying my scalp with chemicals, but I don't care because my dandruff gets really bad in the winters. I don't know why I needed to share that information, but I don't care. It's my hair routine, right? You asked. Here are
You
the
asked.
answers. This is not a glamorous place, really, but
I don't know.
sometimes I condition it. Not always.
Back when I had the man bun, I had like an actual hair routine.
Well,
but,
yeah, you
like,
would have to have
now-
one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, it would go wild. I have like when my hair grows out, it's like crazy curly, so
Yeah.
it's like the most tangled mess if you're not on top of it. Like,
I'm the same. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so
wild.
because of that, I am never growing my hair out again.
My hair grows like a bush. Like it just stays. It stays the same like radius, but it just thickens and thickens and
Mine
thickens.
too, but it also eventually started to go down.
Yeah, because it had nowhere else to go, right?
That's it. It
Yeah.
only, but like it reached like crazily like rat's nest level before it starts going down.
Okay, I don't think I can ever have a rat's nest going on in my
I'm
head,
just
but-
talking about like the crazy, like my hair can tangle while I'm washing it. Like, yeah, I would like
That's
brush
nuts.
it like yeah, it's crazy. When
Wow.
my hair was at its absolute longest, which was kind of close to when we went to Montreal, because I was doing a little bit of an experiment to see how long I could tolerate it.
Right.
And eventually I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. This is insane. Anyways, this is a hockey show.
So there's that. There's our hair routine.
And
It's
mine
barely
is
in existence.
nothing, basically. I used to put a
Nothing.
ton of gel in my hair, and now it just stays up
Oh,
pretty perfectly all the time
Yeah.
without any application. And it's been like that for 10 years. So,
Look at Italians in their hair.
yep. But hey, it's okay.
Ugh.
I'll lose it all soon, so it won't matter.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
He's coming for you, Tony.
yeah,
Yeah.
Tony Ferrari is coming. What's the next one there, Mr. Jadaro?
Favorite NHL jersey introduced this year by Corbin
Oh.
Dempster.
That's a very good question. The first one that comes to mind is the Ducks 30th anniversary jersey, just
I like
because it's
that
got the
one.
eggplant and green on it again, which
yeah,
like I was sitting there watching the Ducks play the other night and I remember, but I was sitting in front of my computer screen and just yelling in my head because they were wearing these jerseys. I'm like, it's right in front of you. Like the fact that everybody wants the eggplant and green back is right there.
yeah.
It's like Arizona with the Kachina. It's like right there. You went back to it and everybody loves it. So just give
Just
the
do
people what
it.
they want, right?
Just do it.
Yeah, so that's wow. When was that? Okay, Shia LaBeouf Just Do It feels like it was 20 years ago.
I'm gonna say 2015.
It's 2015. Nailed it. Yeah,
Really?
2015. That is almost a 10-year-old meme. Oh my god.
Okay, yo, we need to stop with this.
Holy,
This is
okay.
insane.
Anyway, yeah, but a real
Wow.
answer, I'd say the Ducks. I don't know, Sam. What are you pulling off of off the top of your head?
I don't know.
the LA Kings they reintroduced their vintage 90s jerseys, but it was like shiny.
I'm gonna be honest,
really cool.
I liked a lot of them, but I've become extremely picky with jerseys as I get older, where when I see a nice jersey, I'm like, I like this is fine, but there's something I would need to slightly change. And I'm because of this year, I kind of just looked at them and went, it's just the same. Like it's based basically on color schemes and who did something cool. So like I will always be like, I'm cool with San Jose. I like the Anaheim ones. Of course, I'm gonna say like I like the Montreal jersey or just about all the original 6 teams. Rangers usually not so much though.
Yeah,
no offense. I tend to like Minnesota's jerseys. I tend to like, and it kind of just like you can repeat this almost every year when this question gets asked because it always comes down to those things. Like, if I don't like your color scheme, you could do the coolest design in the world. I'm just going to sit there and be like, yeah, but Nashville, your jersey's still mustard yellow. And I think it's kind of ugly. So like, I'm sorry. I actually don't think they have a yellow one this year.
I don't
or
think
was it last year they went blue?
No, they're still wearing yellow.
Yeah, they're still wearing
No,
yellow.
I know that we're yellow normally, but there's special one this year. Because it was about jerseys released this year, right?
Yeah, they don't have anything new this year. They had their reverse retro that was yellow. Their stadium series from 22 was blue-ish.
That's the one I'm thinking of. The stadium.
I will throw also I'll also throw 2 things out. One, if your alternate jersey is just black, that's so lame. That's so 2000.
Are you taking a dump on my favorite team? Is that what you're doing, Will?
Well, that too, but also San Jose, their new black jerseys that are the fin
that was
on
kind
it.
of weak.
They're kind of cool,
I said
but
San Jose, but I forgot that this was the year that they did that. That was weak.
Are you telling me though, Will, that you don't like the Drew jerseys?
I don't really dislike them. I'm just saying it's lame.
No, it's not. Black. It's awesome.
Yes, it is. Black is lame.
Nah.
Black is lame.
Seattle's
Winter Classic. I'll throw that one out there.
It's something so different
Seattle,
from the Leafs.
Man, Seattle's just the best color scheme in the league. Seattle is
like the
hands
Winter
down
Classic
my
jersey.
favorite.
The Seattle Kraken one?
I don't like it. I'll be honest.
Well, I mean, I guess
I'm in the middle of both of it because it's what I said earlier. Like, I think because of the color scheme, the logos and stuff, and it ends up being a jersey that I like, but it's one of those ones where I looked at it, I'm like, I don't think it was nailed. I don't think they nailed it.
Y'all are wrong.
This year, I
like
the Flames Heritage Classic. That would be
both of those were really both of those are really cool.
The 2 Heritage Classic jerseys, I think, would be my top 2 from this year, and I'd probably
that's true.
Just give the slight edge to the Flames, though. Like that's one of the nicer Oilers jerseys I've seen in a long time.
Right. No, I think that's fair. What's next? Go on, move onwards.
Someone please explain Charlie Elick to me. I don't understand. From and Brian Stewart.
It's Brian, so I can be a little more direct with this.
Yes,
one.
you can.
He's your Canadian defenseman. I mean, I don't need to. Brian knows what I mean when I say this. He's your typical Canadian defenseman. Like, picture Hockey Canada, whatever pops into your head is kind of close to whatever Charlie Elick is. But like, you also, because of the way those types of players are evaluated, usually, like, it's this year's version of that's their type of guy, not our type of guy. It kind of is what it is. He's definitely going to play. And 1 in every 6 of these guys eventually kind of become a better player than we thought. Maybe this Alex going to be the 1 in 6, or maybe he'll be the 5 in 6. I don't know, but that's basically, like, you're not missing anything.
Yeah, like, to me, Alec is fine. Like, I think Sam is right. I think he will play, but I don't think he's likely to be anything supremely special.
You will likely be able to pick up something relatively close to him, maybe for slightly less off of waivers for free.
Maybe.
Or at least like a super cheap signing in the summer when you need to fill out you're not drafting him and getting like a defensive staple.
Like, I've got Parekh ranked. I like him fine enough. He's in my 2nd round, which is, I think, reasonable.
Did you say Parekh or Alec?
Alec. Sorry. I saw the word Parekh fly by a few times on the stream, and now it's on my mind. But anyway, Alec. I've got Alec in my 2nd round. Mobile, super physical. He misses hits more often than I think you would like, and pucks just go right through him, and guys go right through him because he's very focused on hitting you. But like the thing with guys like Alec, and we talk about this all the time, both here and privately, but like with guys like Alec, it's like, yeah, like at some point he would be the guy that I might go for. But at any reasonable spot before he's likely to go, I'm almost positive there will be a player that I like more. Always.
Yes. For those who don't know, which would be everyone, this has actually been defined as the Millette continuum.
Yeah, named after our Puck Preps colleague Jordan Millette.
Yes, he is.
It's like, why bother?
This.
What was it? Basically, like, why bother worrying about where you rank a player if you probably are not going to draft them anywhere near where they go anyway?
Yeah, like you basically, like you could even take a step further with it as like your list doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is who you will pick.
Exactly.
And you just need a list that services that role. Anything else is just like for internet points.
Yeah. So I could see a team like the Rangers or Vegas or, I don't know, one of those big teams that are like to be physical, targeting a guy like Alec in the first round. Anaheim, sure. I just think, you probably have other options that could probably give you a little more, but for a guy, he's in my top 40. Sure, right? Like, he's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, and just to be clear, I meant you could call Brian dumb. I didn't mean Charlie. At the beginning of the question.
I'm never gonna never tell a paying customer of our wonderful website that they're dumb.
Yeah, yes, you
Except
have.
you.
And I would never tell
Well, I was.
I think you're gaslighting me.
Players of teenage and very just turned young adult age that they're dumb. Publicly.
Right.
Publicly. You tell them privately, you're an idiot.
Anyway, let's move on.
Okay. So looking through, thoughts on Sam O'Reilly from Andrew C.
Again, a guy who I think will play. Like, I don't know, honestly, with him. Like, every time I watch him, I go, he's kind of one of those guys to me that plays like a third line NHL player in the OHL. Like, a bit of a grinder.
Yeah.
Just kind of follows play pretty well. Gets in. He's not. You can't fault him for like not competing. Really, he's a tough guy to beat. He works hard. There's probably going to be players that I just like a lot more, and he's going to go 45th overall or something, and I'm just going to go, okay, like you could end up with a guy there. I could see it, but I don't think he's going to go super turbo. Like maybe you get like a Barclay Goodrow type guy, right? AJ, it sounds like you're eating or something, so I'm gonna do a.
No,
are you? I don't know.
I was, but it was muted.
Okay.
So now
okay.
Now
I know it's just
people to the fact that I'm eating food.
I just for question finding, I just need to
No, I had it. No, I had it. I had it.
Oh, okay.
Did you watch Stankoven's debut?
I did.
I didn't. How was he?
He was quite good. He was quite good. He had it's his first game, learning the structure and learning where to be, and there was a bit of a weird giveaway he had that sprung the other team on a 2-on-1, which was less than ideal, but it wasn't. I don't know. I can't really chalk it up directly to him. It was just his pass, but kind of the right idea. But the NHL is really fast, and someone stepped right in and picked it off and went the other way, which is how this league works a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But he was pretty good.
And on his first shift, he got the puck and just went from across both blue lines, went in, took a shot, looked really good. I thought he might actually score on like his first shot. Didn't quite do it, but he looked really good. He kept up pace well. Yeah. He's a player. Like, he's going to be so good. And I'm excited for when Logan Stankoven is helping the Dallas Stars win a cup, because I think it'll happen.
He rules. Just so much fun to watch. And I thought he played pretty well.
Okay.
What do we got?
I am looking through more stuff now because a lot of. Okay, what are your thoughts on Anthony Mantha as a rental?
Yeah, he has 2 points tonight. I think I saw that. I mean, I'm okay with it because I got Anthony Mantha as a salary dump in an off-season fantasy trade, but we don't need to talk anymore about fantasy hockey. I don't know. I mean,
I hate it because it's the most basic answer, but depending on the price, it's a great deal.
I don't think he'd cost much. Even if you retain half, he's still 2.5 2.8 million. No, 2.85 million dollars if you retain half, which is not a ton, but considering who else is available for less money if
Yeah.
they retain.
But it's just
That-
like, what assets do you end up having to trade to get them? But if you aren't like, if you're not in some crazy bidding war and you get him at a fair price, and it's like, yeah, I feel like he could really pop in a different scenery.
He's on pace for almost 30 goals.
Yeah, like that's a good player,
Which
Like,
is
he's
pretty
undeniably a
interesting.
good asset.
And he has not come anywhere close to 30. Well, the pandemic obviously clouds things, but I mean, if it were up to me, I probably wouldn't look at Mantha first as a rental because it's an expensive rental, but it means that the price tag is probably cheaper to get him, but it also limits the number of teams he could even go to, because I feel like if those teams with less cap space are looking at an Anthony Mantha, then everyone else probably ahead of him in priority or gone already. I mean, there's always the potential of like a double retention kind of trade, which happens sometimes. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, AJ. I don't think either of us really believe that the Washington Capitals are going to be a playoff team this year,
No,
right?
I
Like,
think they'll
and
sell him off. And you know
and
who
I
they
think the
brought
Washington Capitals kind of know
up?
that.
You know who Elliot brought up as a potential team that would look at Anthony Mantha?
I do not.
The Detroit Red Wings, funnily enough.
Honestly, I could see that.
Yeah.
Detroit could use it, I would say. It would be a nice little boost for a team that is just shooting the lights out right now. I could see that. I mean, I don't know what it would cost. Probably not a whole lot either. Oh, we have a visitor.
Oh, is your
Hello.
cat
Yeah, he's
coming
here.
in?
Just ignore his screams. He's looking for attention or something. But anyway,
Well, here's
yeah,
a
I mean,
question.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. No,
Here's
fire away. I
Here's
was
a
going to prompt
question
you.
that might make you scream. Any thoughts on Parekh, him compared to Dickinson?
Oh boy. How long do you, Sam? Do you have to go to work tomorrow?
Hey, Stank got his first career point. We just saw it in
there
the
you go.
chat.
Attaboy. I thought he got sent back down to the minors.
Yeah, but he's back up. I saw on Daily Faceoff that he's back on that line, so
well,
I
good for
believe
him.
it.
Sweet.
That
All
makes
right.
me a proud papa.
Heck
Well, how do you want to tackle this? Like, how do you want to do this? Because that's a very loaded question.
Oh boy, probably start with Parekh and then add the Dickinson aspect after we have
So-
established the Parekh thing.
So Parekh, if you don't know, scouting.ca, I put a blog post out that was available paywalled until today about some of the good sort of data stories so far this year, especially at the top end of the draft. And Zane Parekh, I just have a section of where the heck is his production coming from. And Zane Parekh has been absolutely bizarre this year for me.
He's really weird.
Like, I wouldn't say I buy how much he is scoring as like, oh, he's going to be a 90 point. He's the next Erik Karlsson. I saw someone on TV say people see him
Not-
as like an Erik Karlsson type. And I just think that's,
I need to think of something crazy to gamble with, but like I'm prepared to gamble with something crazy that's not going to happen.
I mean, it's not, I don't,
Like your
It's
life,
net-
Sam?
yeah. If
Yeah.
Zane Parekh wins a Norris Trophy, maybe we just sacrifice Sam if you put your money where your mouth is on this.
Or your life where
That would get some views. That would get some views on YouTube.
Deal.
You what?
Deal.
Deal. All right, sounds good. We'll do that after
You know, the worst thing that happens is I'm a fraud.
after Sam
and
eats a
then
shoe
you
because
die and then don't have to deal with the consequences of it.
after Sam eats a shoe because Uri Slafkovsky went first overall, we'll follow that up with a virtual sacrifice when Zane Parekh wins a Norris Trophy.
Yeah.
You're gonna choke to death on eating a shoe.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so with Zane Parekh, like the big thing with him is that he's just an enormous passer. He's passing the puck twice a minute in the games that I've tracked. But he's losing possession on a third of those, which is not ideal for a offensive puck moving defenseman. He also is taking 40% of Saginaw's shots when he's on the ice himself as a defenseman.
Yeah.
When you remove the dangerous attempts, it's 32%. So every shot or every 10 shots that Saginaw takes with him on the ice, he is taking 3 of them from the
low
perimeter.
danger.
So just by virtue of how often he's putting pucks on the net, that increases his odds of scoring points.
Yeah.
So there's that. I did look at the NHL, and those numbers would put him way ahead of anyone else. So Dougie Hamilton is the only defender to be beyond 20 individual shot attempts per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Parekh is at 21, so right up there. But of all of the shot attempts that are taken with Dougie Hamilton on the ice, it's only 27% of New Jersey's total attempts. So you've got about 50% more of a percentage with Parekh shooting the puck. So you've got a guy who loses possession a lot with his passing, shoots the puck a lot. But I do think there's good stuff with him, like his misdirection, his ability to carry the puck quickly in the offensive zone, and complicated passing angles and distributing the puck in the offensive zone.
Yeah, the strengths he has are extremely appealing, specifically the passing in the ozone. Some of the passes I see him pull off, I'm like, hey, those are nuts. It's just like the chances for defensemen to execute those types of passes in the NHL happen less and less.
Yeah. To me, even if you're optimistic about Parekh, and I have him in my top 20, I think, but not top 10, and I've seen him there. Like, it's the types of players that he reminds me of in the NHL, even the optimistic cases like a Dougie Hamilton. Dougie Hamilton took a long time to like find his footing and stride, because when he came into the league, he was very sort of free-flowing offensive guy. You know, like that kind of was his game from what I remember back in the day. Parekh is like overwhelmingly favoring his passing. If it were up to me, I would probably, because I think he is a decent puck carrier, I would like to see that a little bit more and maybe see him, you know, add more of that, because I think you can pre-scout a kid who pretty much only passes the puck pretty easily. But like his rate of shot assists is pretty low for a defenseman. It's not terrible, but it's decently low. Like he's a guy who I think has question marks, just like Sam Dickinson. So I'll let you take over for Sam Dickinson, because I know you and I disagree a bit on him.
Yeah. So basically the easiest way at this point, now that the framework for Parekh has come out, is Parekh has got some interesting high upside tools, but a lot of confusing variables that kind of can really muddy his projection. Whereas Dickinson has high upside tools, but kind of in a way that provides more of a safety baseline with him. Dickinson is kind of like that Hockey Canada insert typical Hockey Canada defenseman from we mentioned earlier, but like the good version of it, where like you can see this player really evolve into a top 4 role with possibly like even first pairing upside. The problem with Dickinson is that his games are all over the place. You watch some games, are the most boring things you've ever seen, where Dickinson's just getting the puck, chipping it up the ice, kind of blind passing certain areas, like good defense, I guess, but like nothing that really blows your mind or like shuts down every opponent that comes within his vicinity. These types of things don't really happen. But then you watch other games and Dickinson's snapping passes with perfect timing and playing within the perfect pace of the game and really kind of like bypassing pressure. He uses his length and his skating to really get by guys, uses his reach really well. He is unbelievably smart in a really basic kind of way, where it's like when moments open up and chaos ensues on the ice, you really start to see Dickinson thrive with some of the crazy passes he'll hit, or like these spins away from guys with skill, where he'll just pull the puck back in really quickly as he's turning and then extend it around to kind of like bypass one dude or do the exact same move, but instead kind of like drag it around someone. But it happens so rare that it's kind of hard to kind of fully buy into the stock of it. I watched Dickinson a lot before his draft year this year, and I've seen him in a Team Canada jersey more than once beyond just the Hlinka. And you see this type of play from him more in those environments, which you also know that London plays their defenseman a certain way. And Dickinson is 100% playing London night hockey. But when he kind of thrives away from it, you see these moments where you're like, man, this guy could really be something. So I feel like personally for me, I do kind of believe in Dickinson quite a bit. And even if I'm wrong, you do get that safety of like, at least he's probably like a reliable number 4, I guess, which is boring. And Parekh is a lot more fun than that. But Parekh's got a lot of possible things you got to really, not possible, a lot of things you do have to mitigate. Like Parekh as we mentioned it before, like Perek doesn't really do well with physical play. You can get pucks past Perek with very little resistance. There was a play I watched in his most recent game where I actually thought it was his best showing defensively, but maybe also the most concerning play I've ever seen from him, where he kind of did play physically with a defender or with a forechecker, and he kind of shrugs him off, and he has the puck in a spot where he can come out and but he's coming out behind the net, and the second forward is coming in to rotate on him. And he kind of tried to sidestep him, but he knew he was going to get hit, so he just literally let the puck go. Like, I don't think he meant to do it this way, but it was, the sidestep wasn't like, made no sense. It wasn't like an escape into space. It was like I'm about to get smashed, and like try and like you bring the puck with you, like you don't leave the puck. No one ever leaves the puck behind. So it's one of those ones where it's like, how does this keep happening? Stuff like this.
So
it is such a blatant example that will probably never happen again. But like,
well, I was just gonna say, like, I think
like that's such like a
individual mistakes are like, yeah, you could.
It's just the pattern of the year where you keep seeing it, and then when you see those individual mistakes, it's like, hey man, there's something underlying here. I don't want to. I won't go as far to say like he is scared of physical play, but like compared to his contemporaries, there is something going on there. I don't know if it's fixable or not because I don't know the player, and the people who would know the player will 100% be able to comment on that way better. But like, I don't know how often I've been watching players who are less physically averse suddenly go into the NHL where everybody's a killer and just go, all right, let's go, boys, and start hip checking everybody.
All right, so Stankoven has now scored a goal, so he now has 2 points on the night. And also, related question, what do scouts and pundits see in this year's crop of defensemen to think so highly of them? While you believe... Oh, I'm just reading through. While you believe the elite top-end talent is lacking... Well, you, being Will, believe the top-end talent's lacking. So, like, what are they seeing that you think they are overvaluing?
I'm going to put my arms down because they're getting tired already.
That's pretty pathetic.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just really happy Logan Stankoven scored a goal. There we go. Let's just do this for the next hour. Anyway, but yeah, I already forgot what the question was, to be perfectly honest.
So it's just about
other people's
the defenseman at the top and why people think that it's good. So there's a lot of like shiny new toys, I think. A lot of that. Yeah. There's a lot of like Artyom Levshinov. Guys like that don't come around very often. The guy that Artyom Levshinov all the time just continuously reminds me of is like the 2024 version of Dion Phaneuf. Like, I don't know if anybody remembers what Dion Phaneuf was like, but when Dion Phaneuf was young...
Calgary Phaneuf,
yes.
What you're talking about,
Yes. Like, when he was young, there was a lot of offense in his game. He was a shooter, like a cannon shooter, and I don't see necessarily that out of Levshinov, but the style of play, the weaknesses and strengths are very similar. But anyway, but guys like him don't come along very often. Guys that play like him, guys that score like him, guys that step up into the offensive zone like him, who have that size and physicality. It's just not a thing you see very often. Anton Salayev is genuinely an extremely gifted 6'7" skater.
Yeah.
And I think that also is very enticing to teams because if you have mobile dudes with reach who can skate and carry the puck, that also feels very 2024 NHL to me in a way for defensemen. I like both of these players quite a bit, but I just have them valued a little lower than some of the other guys who I think could be real game breakers. Like, I think these guys could be good defensemen, but I wouldn't say like guys that bust the whole team wide open. I've got Zeev Buium and Sam Dickinson in the same tier at the top end of this year. I think Dickinson is a bit more of a wild card, but I mean, I've seen him play well. I've seen it happen. I just haven't seen it as often as I want. Zeev Buium is one I haven't seen in a while, so I won't talk too much about him. The last couple times I've seen him, he's been like, Zeev Buium has just a high-end sort of mind for playing the position. Like, he just kind of reads the game really well, has enough skating and skill ability.
He plays in motion better than the defenseman in the draft.
Like, his catches and releases, his ability to see the ice, he connects on his passes really well. Just, I wouldn't say that he's destined to be this massive high-end scoring guy in the NHL, but I mean, yeah, I think he could be a useful one. But yeah, I mean, in terms of NHL scouts, there's a lot of shiny toys. I think stuff that doesn't come along very often, and it's hard to set aside the shiny toy when you're used to looking at other toys.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm gonna
next
put
question.
My arms down now, but just trying to.
Linus Eriksson thoughts or Linus Eriksson thoughts.
I saw him once in September.
Considerably.
Yeah,
like from the last list I posted to this one, he's like moved. I think he was like 46, 47, I don't know, mid 40s.
Yeah,
he's like cut that in half.
The points don't scream at you. His production isn't phenomenal or good, but it doesn't matter to me. Like I look at him as a guy who's he's a glue guy. Like there are so many players this year to me. I don't know if you agree, but there's so many players who are just very smart. Like they move the puck well. They play the game in a way that just makes sense. It's not flashy a lot of the time, but it doesn't matter. Guys like Jetlachenko come to mind. Linus Eriksson is one for sure, right? It's not about the talent, it's about how they play. Like Eriksson is a pretty good skater, I think. Like I think
Eriksson moves really well.
He moves around the ice really well. He follows play really, really well.
He's really good with his stick. He's really good at recognizing what to do when play turns around. Like he's always picking the right route with his head up and knowing where the first wave of pressure is coming from.
Yeah, like it's just, to me, it's about, for Eriksson, I would say you leave him in Sweden for a few years. Like I would not even think about bringing him over right away. You leave him in Sweden a few years, give him more and more ice time. I mean, he's already playing a ton in Hockey Allsvenskan.
That's what I was just going to say, is like the progression of him has been crazy. The first game I ever watched him was in like July. I watched what was apparently like a second or third J20 game. And I remember seeing like, man, for someone who's just jumped up a level, he looks like he's really close to being a guy. And fast forward to, so that game would have been at the end of last year's season. Now we're in February, but this happened in the end of January is when I believe Eriksson was promoted to first line center of an Allsvenskan team and looked good. Yeah. Like he didn't, like the team was like, all right, well, kid, we need a first line center right now because of I think it was an injury that put him, they needed somebody and they grabbed him and he immediately slotted in and did not ever once look out of play. He never fell behind the pace of play. His line mates never suffered on chances or opportunities that they usually create. He's done really, really well. He's pretty much done everything you possibly want from a player but score.
He's got 7 points in 24 Pro League games, which is not terrible.
Which is not bad either.
And he's a point a game internationally this year. Like I like him. I think that he could be a sneaky good pick in the second round. Like he's in my first round now that I look. My computer is absolutely losing its mind right now, so I can't check stuff, but I'm pretty sure he's in my first round now. But I've been a big fan of Eriksson for the last few months, seeing him, especially now that he's playing pro.
All right, so next question. What line was better? Marner, Dvorak, Kachuk on the Knights?
I'm going to say that one without even knowing what the next one. The first one is not even an argument.
Yeah.
Not only is it not an argument, there's better lines that have formed over the years than that one. Like you could say the BC line this year would smash that Cooley line around.
Probably. It would be, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
For the point of the question, it literally doesn't matter. That Kachuk, Dvorak, Marner line is like enshrine that in junior hockey history because you'll very rarely ever find lines like that one. That just wins again.
I agree.
Alrighty. The next question's from your boy David Phillips, Will.
Hi. Hello.
So he is asking about a new deep cut of his from Magnitogorsk.
He manages to find if it's Russian, I know he's found somebody.
It is Russian. Daniil Serenetsdinov, something like that.
I think I've seen that name once.
I'm just rebooting my Google Chrome here. I don't know
if I'm being honest.
I don't recognize the name.
Here, let me send you the name because I could have butchered it completely. So here, let me just send you the name, Will. There you go.
Oh, Now I feel dumb. I have to open my Discord on my laptop here. Give me a moment. Okay, I got it. Thank God for Mac.
Oh, never mind. That's not. I missed
Daniil Sarazdinov. I don't.
Sarazdinov?
Okay, so this is how I know I've seen a guy, because his link when I Google it on Elite Prospects is purple. So I have seen this player, but I don't remember what I remember about him. So I'll have to go check him out.
That name is too distinct. I misheard what AJ had said. Now that I can, because I can see it over there. Sarazdinov. No.
I'm gonna just say we should move on, and I'll watch him and talk to David in the Discord, in the Scouching Discord server, which is a
Alrighty.
perk of any subscriber to the
That's why
website.
you should have it.
So
You should probably do it.
next question:
Yeah.
would you trade a package that includes Adam Fantilli for Elias Pettersson if you're the Columbus Blue Jackets, provided
Probably.
that Pettersson will sign long term?
Probably. It's Elias Pettersson. Like, I really like Adam Fantilli. I probably wouldn't pay a ton more than Adam Fantilli.
I
for
will
him.
argue, is this one of those times where you just pay attention to making sure your time window lines, like you can't just trade Fantilli. You have to trade more than Fantilli. It won't be a 1-for-1. What else do you have to give up to acquire Elias Pettersson?
Yeah.
How many other pieces does your team need before you're in a position of success?
I'm kind of with Sam on this one. I don't know that I do it because Adam Fantilli's awesome, and so is Elias Pettersson. But he's right.
Like,
what
I
else
don't expect
additionally do you have
Fantilli
give
to
up?
be a better player than Pettersson. So and Pettersson's young enough to the point where no team that's in a rebuild phase loses. It's just, it is one of those ones where I'm like, you get Fantilli cost controlled for a while, whereas Pettersson's about to get slam dunk money. What's Gaudreau signed for?
What? 9.5? 9.75?
You want
I
21
think
mil
it's a
on
little less, but I will take a look quickly.
Either way.
What do you want? You want 21 mil on Pettersson and Gaudreau, one of them aging, neither age window synced up, and the team still in the midst of a rebuild. It just sounds like one of those
Right.
where you can make the move and absolutely navigate it correctly. It's just one of those, like, I feel like it's
So it is 9.75.
Okay, so I think also the thing also, I mean, I just love Elias Pettersson and think he makes anyone better.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think the bigger issue is I'm not sure he's a fit in Columbus. Like,
that's
from how he plays, like
that's
Columbus
also
could
the point.
use him, obviously, but I feel like he works off of the guys in Vancouver so well as it is. But yeah. I don't know. I mean, but he's a 100-point player now, and Adam Fantilli is not that, right?
No, it's
And
fine.
is Adam Fantilli going to be a 100-point guy?
Probably not.
I don't think
No.
so.
Fantilli will
I
be
hope
like
so.
a good first line center.
I mean, I hope
really
so
good
too.
first line center, and I think Fantilli has like crazy like point per game two-way upside. Just like
100 points is hard,
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
insane.
even now.
when
even
when
now.
all is said and done, if Adam Fantilli is a better player than Elias Pettersson was, I will be absolutely floored. But I wouldn't be more. I'd probably gamble that Columbus is more likely to have the best team they've ever had with Fantilli on it, as long as they just sat there and stockpiled assets and lined up other timing windows and cap windows for like sustained success.
I agree with that.
All right, so next question. Have you guys played Franchise Hockey Manager? It seems like something
have.
you'd like, since it has a more immersive prospect
Yes.
experience.
I have played it. I have bought. Because I'm a big believer in purchasing things you like to support, and I think that that's a really cool thing they've built. I think it's just like a couple of people. I could be wrong, but I think it's only like a handful of people who were building that game. So I purchase it like every other year. You know, sometimes there's good deals on it. I enjoy it. I'm currently running through a historical mode simulation that started in the first year post expansion, and I chose the Oakland Seals. And I didn't realize that the teams relocate at the same times as they did in real life. So the California Golden Seals relocated a bunch of times. I ended up with a team with like Guy Lafleur on it and Bob Gainey and who else was on it? I forget who else. And I won 3 straight Stanley Cups as the Golden Seals became the Cleveland Barons. And then when the Cleveland Barons merged with the Minnesota Wild, they took all the good players and fired me. So that was that. That
Big
was
sad.
that.
What
for
did
me.
you learn?
I learned that the world is not fair. I think, Sam.
That's a good
I
lesson.
learned that the world is not fair.
That's a
But
good
yes, I
lesson.
do. I play it. I don't think Sam does, but I do.
I did get that one. I didn't remember which one everyone said was a good one, and I think people argue. So I think I bought East Hockey, and I opened that one up, and I remember messing around with it for about an hour. And I closed it, and I was like, "That was cool." I definitely need to like figure out how it runs, but I could totally see myself spending lots of hours on that. And that was, I think, was 4.5 years ago.
Right.
It's
I
cool. Don't think I've reopened it.
It's a good time killer. You can just watch your life melt away when you play it.
The one like I definitely would play
Now I'm curious.
that one. I can always forget the names of both and also confuse them.
Well,
I
what
feel
are
like
you
I've
curious about?
I feel like I've played Franchise Hockey Manager 10 for way more than 57 hours, but number 9 I played 154 hours of.
So
That seems like a lot.
Next question here.
Yeah, next question,
Does
please.
Luke Misa have star potential? What is his high upside? Like, so what is his
Yes.
ceiling?
I mean, if everything
Technically,
goes
like
right,
it's one of those like there's a difference between everything goes right ceiling and then realistic ceiling. It's like, what's the theoretical ceiling? What's the practical ceiling? Theoretical ceiling
Yeah.
is when literally every variable goes right. He does have super high potential. I said on Columbus's Locked on Blue Jackets not too long ago, we did a pod about Misa, and I'm a big fan of him. He is almost definitely a winger at the NHL level. I still think he plays better in the middle of the ice, and it would be cool if he could be a center. If he was a little bigger, I'd definitely be a huge advocate of center. Oh my goodness, making him a center.
yeah.
And from there, I could see him kind of really popping, but he doesn't have that extra little bit of height. So you need every single thing to work well. And the biggest thing is he needs to be a little more apt at like chaining moves passed around guys to deceive them and like open up lanes, because he, as you've mentioned before, is a high volume player. I think your data really backed that one up in terms of the pass.
Yeah, big
He's
time.
like high volume, which the eye test says that too. He knows when he's got a guy beat what to do with the puck, but sometimes like, the play just didn't work out that way and that bounces off a defensive stick, or, the centering pass just kind of didn't work. Those types of players don't usually hit super crazy high upside, even if they are one of the most gifted skaters you've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, like I think, yeah. But embarrassing moment. I forgot who you were talking about.
Luke
What?
Misa.
Oh yeah, Luke Misa. So yeah, he's in that article I posted today because he is one of the better overall analytics guys in the data set this year so far.
Oh yeah.
But to me, Luke Misa is the hockey equivalent of if you have like a kid playing perfection, the board, the thing where you put the pieces into the slot before they explode. It's like he's trying to do that as fast as he possibly can all of the time. And he's just jamming pieces into it until it fits. And right now in the Perfection World Championships for children, it works a lot better because he just is doing a lot of things quicker than everyone else. He moves quicker. He's got quicker hands, whatever. But it's like a matter of like when Luke Misa's game kind of falls apart for me, it's when he's under pressure and when he's, like he'll work hard, but he's undersized and can kind of grind it down a little bit. And, it's a little tricky, but I think for a guy who might go in the late first or late second round, you could do a lot worse than Luke Misa.
All right. So
I was just gonna say he's like, even if he doesn't have star potential, you're not getting him in the first, and anything past the first, he's just gonna be
Nils Höglander again, all over again. Nils Höglander, Nick Robertson.
Yeah,
taste your
one of
poison.
those guys where everyone's just like, yeah, okay, that was a really good pick.
All right. So the next
Kudos.
question: thoughts on Melvin Fernstrom?
I think he's a guy. That's just me though. Once in a while, you'll see something fun, little spin move here, still move here. I just don't.
I'm pretty. There was a moment where he was again like when I think the day I watched Linus Eriksson the first time is the day I watched Melvin Fernstrom the first time, and then this year I remember checking in and seeing Melvin Fernstrom and being like, "Yo, he's added some stuff," but now we're in February. Some things were added to his game. He still makes roughly the same amount of impact, and that's not normally a good sign. Like when players are expanding their toolkit, but they're not any more impactful. Usually that's a sign of someone who's not going to do very well when the pace of play reaches NHL pace.
I will also say that I am well overdue for another game of him, so I will do so in the next little while.
Okay. So next one is, how much is Braden Yeager carrying the Penguins prospect ranking?
Like
Or-
Atlas. He's like Atlas for the Pittsburgh Penguins this year, carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. I'm also killing time until I can pull up their list here, but yeah, it is pretty much in Pittsburgh the Braden Yeager show. Mikhail Ilyin is having a really good year
Yeah, that's
with
the other
them
one
as
they
well.
mentioned. I just
Yeah,
wasn't going to try
Mikhail
pronouncing it,
Ilyin,
and I figured you'd
and
bring
he's
it
been
up.
he's been pretty good this year when I've seen him for Severstall. I watch that team quite a bit because they have two of my boys on it. But yeah, Zam Blount is also having a decent year with the USHL, but it is the Braden Yeager show this year, and Mikhail Ilyin is right behind him.
All right, so from Rayanne, again, if
Oh,
you
boy.
guys were back to being 16 years old and magically attain hockey talent, which league would you go for to develop before the draft?
J20 to SHL. If
I go to college.
That was just gonna say I'd go USHL to NCAA if I was, most likely that's what I would do. But there's the J20 to SHL route that has a very they will encourage a very fun skill mobile game. If you've got God gifted talent and you're in the right system over there, you get to play pro earlier. But at the same time, the safest route without question is the college route.
I'm a simple man. I just think NCAA vibes are immaculate. Like playing in an
fine.
NCAA arena, especially after having gone to an NCAA game, it's
I'm
so
fine
good.
with that answer too.
100%.
NCAA is I would never ever ever pick the CHL over the NCAA if I knew what I was doing.
No, if I could go play for Arizona State University, why would I choose playing in Sudbury?
Not to mention the quality of competition is higher. It's the highest, I guess,
and
junior.
Yeah,
in heavy quotes because it's not a junior league, but it's the best natural progression to from junior you can have in North America without actually going pro. And you don't want to ever be stuck in that I'm 18 years old and I could benefit from higher level competition. I'm getting the OHL, but I can't get that. And I'm also in a team that is kind of developing me a certain way, not giving me the opportunities I want. And there's a lot of teams in the CHL that are kind of like that.
Yeah. I mean,
where you see good prospects go and you're when they add this to their game, they're going to be sick and they just never.
And you play and you don't play as many games. I'm lazy. 68 games is a long season.
Wicked with conditioning, and they're wicked in the workout room.
Yep.
And you get the college experience, which I don't know. Do you rate your college experience out of 10 just like that before you were a sick ass hockey player?
Right.
Not
bad.
I didn't have a bad time. So,
yep. Well, there you go. Sweden for Sam. College for old Bill.
I mean, okay, fine.
Whatever.
Right, so there's still quite a few questions left, so we should try and rapid fire some of these.
All right.
All right, so should the NHL have an award for best two-way player so they can separate the Selke for best defensive forward?
Isn't that?
It's asking if you would add another award for combined and then just a best two-way and then a best defensive forward.
I don't know. It's the same reason to me. It's the same reason you don't have a best defensive defenseman award. It's how do you discern that? What is the I feel like the voting for those would be such a mess.
So reputational, but I feel in theory it's a good idea in theory until I start thinking about how it works and how much reputation would spill into it.
The one thing the question adds is that forward would have to have a minimum of 70 points to be eligible to win the award.
For what, the two-way one or the defensive one?
I don't know. I think that's just too many.
Yeah, there's just too many. That's the thing.
The only award I want to add is most improved player or something, or something like that. That's the only one.
And the gnarliest stash award.
Sure, that too. Yeah. Anyway,
all right.
Rapid fire. Let's go.
So in reference to the Sam O'Reilly discussion, what round of the draft does a guy who plays third or fourth line NHLers start to become a steal?
Third round, as long as you didn't leave some ridiculous steal on the board, and he ended up being a thing.
Yeah, to me, the second round is the range where you can swing on skill that should be already gone, and if you hit, you nail it. Third round is kind of if you get anything, then great. I think there are NHL teams that would disagree with that strategy for the second round, especially. And Sam O'Reilly, they'll think yeah, we could probably plug him into a bottom 6 one day, sure, and just draft him 45th.
Yeah,
But
and it's easy for us. It's always worth remembering. Like it's easy for the people who don't have their jobs on the line to say this.
that is also very true
Yep.
as well.
So like, I don't blame them for that.
All right, so thoughts on Harrison Brinicki?
Skates well, but that's really all I picked up. I've seen him a few times. Yeah, he's
I don't get
a good
the-
skater.
I don't get the needle moved.
Yeah.
Okay, still scrolling. All right, Murat Kuznetsov is rumored to burn the first year of his contract and join the
Yes.
Wild soon. What kind of player do you see in him? That dog.
Take it away, Billy.
Think Marco Rossi, but like maybe not as skilled. Like really intense two-way guy, gives you everything
fluid.
at every end. I saw him block a shot with his face once and then block a shot later in the game with the cage that he had put on to block his face. Like that's the kind of guy you're getting. Like you're going to get a guy who
Yo, that is
yeah, like it was
badass.
awesome. I think it was him, but I'm pretty sure it was he took a puck to the face and then came back and then took another puck to the face or something like that.
That's badass.
The guy's a dog. He rules. I'll stand Murat Kuznetsov forever, and I feel like there's room with Minnesota for him, if not this year, then next year.
All right, next question. How many games do you watch for each prospect? Do you try and watch a good game, a bad game, or random games?
Well, the thing is about good and bad, you don't know before you go in.
Yeah, you unless someone tells you, but I don't
Yeah.
like doing that because that means you're going in with a biased thought.
Right.
I've had people be like, "This is a great game" from somebody years ago, and I would be like, "Oh, this was a really good game." Now I completely like someone tells me it's a good game, I go in and like try to be as blind as possible, and sometimes I disagree, but for the most part, like
Yep.
you're kind of led by that bias.
I mean, for me, in my data set, a full profile on a player usually doesn't really come into focus until like 5 or 6 games. 5, and then things get kind of tweaked from there. And I'm getting to that point with a few players. I tried to make most of the games I track for a player against good competition. It's a little tricky at the beginning of the year, but as the year goes on, you kind of know which teams are better than others, and I think that's important to factor in. But I mean, I sit and watch. Like if I can only put data in a database for so long. Like at night generally is when I just sort of watch players and watch because it's kind of two different experiences for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so I can't really tell you how many to watch for each prospect, but in terms of data, yeah, it gets up to like 5, 6, 7 games, and then on top of that, it's also just checking them out outside of that.
Nikita Gribyankin upside.
He's a big. I think he's got the resilience and the pace in his game and the skill to sort of play. I don't think he's going to be a super high end NHL, super high steal guy, but could he be an NHL player? Sure. I don't think he's going to play on the Leafs first or second line or something, but you can. I think you'll be able to plug him in and he'll find stuff to do okay. If that makes any sense.
Thoughts on Philip Eriksson scoring at a historic pace in the Allsvenskan?
Oh, Philip Eriksson. Honestly, I haven't seen much of Philip Eriksson
haven't.
this year.
I know he's scoring a lot.
He
but
was
I
hurt
haven't
last year a
looked.
lot. I thought he was fine when he came back, but hey, you draft the kid that was injured, that showed promise at the lower levels, and sometimes you get a good player, and maybe that's what Montreal has. I don't know. I thought Eriksson was fine last year, but I have not seen him much this year. So pass.
Have you seen much of Igor Chernov?
Yes,
and he's pretty good.
he's insane.
He's a pretty good hockey player.
He's got ridiculous upside.
I think he could. Well, I think he could be like a really good complementary offensive guy. Like, I see the skill level. He does have some moments of like separation speed and everything.
His one-on-one ability,
Yeah,
against like grown
really
men in
good.
KHL is
Yeah.
like holy crap,
Yeah.
brother.
He's got some really good moments, that's for sure. He's in my top 10, I think. I like Chernyshov a lot. I just feel like he's one of the better guys that down the road I could see like you put him with more of a play driver guy and a physical guy, and he'll just be the guy that produces.
Yep.
All right, so guess who sent in this question? Just finished another Herman Traff viewing in the Allsvenskan, and this guy rocks every time I watch him.
Is it Herman Truff himself? Did Herman show up? Hi, Herman.
Where is
Big
he
fans.
on your list? That is what this
like-
viewer
One
asked.
second.
I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I think 40, something like that.
And
It's not far back from that.
And who's the viewer, Will?
Oh, it's got to be the one and only David Phillips,
That is correct.
DP himself.
Okay, just let me clear my throat. Had to mute for that. Hey guys, hope it isn't too late for a question.
Nope.
Who are some underrated NCAA free agents we should keep our eye on?
Colin Graff, that's the first one that comes to mind for me. I've been watching him since his days in the NCDC or whatever it was, where I thought he was pretty darn good. Trying to think of other ones. Last year, my guy was Ryan McAllister. I thought he was great last year. I don't know if you've got anyone to throw out there while I wait for elite prospects to load.
No, I'm blank. It's one of those questions where a bunch of names came in my head. I'm like, they're not all.
Yeah, there's a lot of them
playing again next year.
A lot of them are already drafted, but Colin Graff is one for sure. I saw a report today that Cade Weber might go to free agency and not sign with Carolina, but I don't think there's much with him. The Rakowian brothers I really like. I don't think they're going to leave right away, but Justin and Dylan, I've liked them for a while. Oh, I'm going to throw one more out there and then we'll move on. But Arizona State defenseman Tim Lovell. He's a senior. I think he's the captain of the team. He's over a point a game now. I don't think he's an NHL player, but if you like that Nick Blankenberg type NCAA defender, I feel like Lovell is right up there. And I saw him live with my eyeballs and thought he was pretty darn good. So,
who would you like the Leafs to take this draft?
Well, Sam, you're probably going to pick the worst hockey player you can imagine. Probably me.
I was going to say me.
Yeah, Sam's worse at hockey than I am, and I'm already not great. I'm learning that very quickly playing pickup hockey Friday nights. Oh, boy. Learning that real fast.
I was actually going to say me.
Yeah, probably one of the two of us would be the worst option. But who would I like the Leafs to pick?
Who's the most random D+2 overager with no points?
No.
In the league?
I bet Will's going to say like Luke Misa. Like that's who I could realistically.
Here, you want my answer?
That.
Serious answer? Nikita Artamanov move.
I feel like Alphonse Fry would be one that I look at if I'm Toronto in the late first round, like because Toronto has Morgan Riley and maybe Timothy Liljegren, but like not a ton of offensive defensemen. Like they've got Topi Niemela, who I think is fine, but I think Alphonse Fry is something completely different. Like just a super high skilled, high offense, high octane guy who produces and produces and produces and produces. And I mean, Morgan Riley's not going to be young forever. And if you want someone who can really skate, really play with the puck, really see the ice well, that's a pretty good option.
Yeah.
So if in the late first round, I think, and you could probably get him in the late first round, I'd be surprised if he was drafted before that. But I like him a lot. I don't know if like Adam Jiricek somehow falls all the way to like 25 or 26, that could be another one, or 32, AJ, for your purposes. Mm-hmm. If Jiricek just plummets through the draft, then maybe a guy like that, but that seems also quite unlikely. Andrew Bosch is the other one that I would love to see in Toronto. Just a guy who, like, if you like that William Nylander style, high intensity skill guy 24/7, that's kind of what Bosch brings you in my time seeing him.
Could you see some of the players in this draft class blossom into the NHL much later in their careers?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I mean that can be said of any draft class, but this one keeps giving me that 2021. I just call it a lot of maybes.
Yeah.
This could be a very good draft, surprisingly. There's a lot of interesting things that just need a couple of things to break right.
Yeah, like there are players where, like, there's a lot of players this year where if they go really, really high out of nowhere, I wouldn't be surprised. Like if someone steps up and takes like Beckett Seneke or Merrick Vanacker at like 20, I'd be like, all right, I wouldn't do it, but you're betting on what they're going to be in 7 years because those guys are really, really smart. They play a way that would work in the NHL. Like they can handle pressure well. They're mobile. They're creative, but not so much where they're going to be game breakers in the NHL. But if the skating comes a ways, they get a little more skilled, the sort of fundamentals get better, then there could be a lot of potential. And I feel like there's tons and tons and tons of those guys this year. So yes, the answer to that question, I believe, is yes.
What makes your data different than player cards?
In the prospect pipelines, I mean, I don't know what goes into a lot of those player cards, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, mine, it's really, I mean, there's not a ton that goes into it, right? It takes what's public, and really just tries to crunch it as much as I can. Age adjusted, position adjusted, league adjusted for the quality of their team kind of stuff. But really that there's not much more than that going on there, right? Like it's, player cards are, it depends on the card, depends on what goes into it. But I don't think fundamentally there's a tremendous amount really that different, honestly.
All right. So final 2 questions. Have you
Fire
watched
away.
much of the PWHL?
I have, actually. I've seen once, when they stream it on YouTube, it's usually one of the first things that pops up when I go on my YouTube account on the TV when I'm eating dinner. So I'll turn that on. I've loved watching again, like this is a bit of a bias from the show, but the American teams and the American women, I've always enjoyed watching the American women's team a lot more. The Canadian women's team plays like a Canadian team, admirable, gritty, tough, but the Americans, man, like Alex Carpenter, Hillary Knight. I'm super excited for Kayla Barnes one day to come to the PWHL because she has been insane in college. I think she's in her 6th year at college in the States. But just an unbelievable defenseman that's been to the Olympics a couple of times for them. I've seen it here and there. Haven't seen every game, but I tune in when it's on, and usually on the weekends. It's nice thing to put on in the afternoons.
All right, and the final.
I spend most of my time doing. I was just gonna say I spend most of my time doing the prospect work, but I've watched as many of those games since the year changes. I've watched like full NHL, sat down, uninterrupted, paid attention.
Right.
I've watched 4 of each, and I genuinely think the PWHL games were kind of better. I also picked a couple of bad NHL games.
Oh, and shout out Alina Miller. One of my favorites. She rules.
All right, and the final question. So Corwin from Bar Down said that Liljegren is better than Owen Power. Do you agree?
No. Like I can see where he's coming from, but I'm not taking Liljegren.
I hate the word better.
Yeah, it's just
I hate it.
They're 2 different players. They're not even
buy into the Leafs propaganda. Buy in.
The things that Timothy Liljegren does well, he does better than Owen Power. But it's also tough because he's also 4 years older.
Yeah, and
Liljegren at the same age,
not even close.
At the same age, not even close.
It's
you go
not
with Owen Power. But Owen Power still has similar problems to when he was draft eligible. Like he's a wonderful puck mover, great offensive guy, but the reason, like a big reason Buffalo struggles still is because they keep giving up goals. Like their defensive play has not been great this year. It's better than it was last year, but this year it's not enough. And Power has always been a guy who's kind of struggled in his own end. Liljegren has really come a long way in that area. I think Liljegren is more of a stable guy now, but I don't know. I can't if you offered me a 1-for-1 of Liljegren for Power, I'm taking Owen Power off your hands. But
I'm taking that.
There are holes in his game that Liljegren fills in, but there are also holes in Liljegren's game that Power could fill in. But also you kind of would like to motivate Liljegren to do maybe a few more of those things because he's capable and he's been good.
Yeah, like if you told me at the end of it Liljegren had the better career, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But like right now, definitively saying Liljegren is better.
Right.
Okay.
And I'll add to close this out. When Timothy Liljegren got a lot of good deployment when Morgan Riley was out of the lineup, we actually just saw what he can do when he's given the opportunity. Right? So like at some level, Liljegren will always not get the same level of opportunity, I don't think, because he's just further down the depth chart. And Morgan Riley is like basically responsible for all of the offensive stuff the Leafs do with defensemen. So I think Liljegren, not like Owen Power is a better player long term, but Timothy Liljegren, he's the man. It's just one of my favorite players.
He's a bad man. He's a bad man. Well, if that's it for the evening, I guess we can call it. We'll do one final ad read because y'all love advertisements. You don't get enough of them during the day. But we're sponsored by Fanatics. You can use our affiliate link below or scan the QR code in the chat window to provide a small kickback to the show on anything you buy in the store. We're also brought to you by Puck Preps Hockey, where Sam and I are part of the team, where we do some writing once in a while there for all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs. We're also brought to you by Fractal Hockey Consulting, which is my business for hand-tracked player analysis packages and recruitment packages for the NCAA, Europe, and more, with solutions for any of your organization's needs. And of course, Scouching.ca for exclusive access to innovative data tools with unparalleled insights into the draft and players making their way into the NHL, as well as a really fun Discord server where we watch hockey together, share video, have a few laughs, have a few tears, and just have a good time in general. So that's going to be it for this week. Samuel, any final words? Thank you so much for coming down, making the long trek.
No final words.
Okay.
Love being here.
Yeah. Going to stop off at Franco's No Frills on the way home?
It's closed, Will.
Oh, it's closed. Right. Yeah. Forgot how late it is. AJ, once again, thank you, my friend.
Am I
as
getting
always.
final thoughts?
You can too. Get well soon. That's my final thought. And then you can end the stream whenever you're done saying what it is you're going to say.
During the stream because my voice
Oh, that's
came
good.
up considerably. But I'm sure
You're
as soon
welcome.
as it ends and my energy goes down, I'll be back to being a sick boy. But
You're welcome. You're on adrenaline.
yes, I am. But go Leafs, go! 7-game win streak.
Oh, my goodness.
And Logan Stankoven rocks. So those are
True.
my final thoughts.
2-point night.
So far, he can
Anyway,
still score more.
Yeah. Go team. Go Logan in my Canucks jersey. Anyway, thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll see you Thursday afternoon.
Good night.